Greetings, family, in the name of our King, to the Mishpachah scattered among these nations. As we all are dispersed, we are intermingled amongst many peoples. We didn't come here by choice. It was based on captivity, as we will read within the scriptures. And our situation has been unfortunate, even until this day. A lot of the choices that we have come to make and so forth has not has been kind of guided to some degree, where we believe that we were making the right decisions until the truth slapped us across the head and given us a rude awakening. And now we have decisions to make and such like, and hopefully we'll be able to have some sense of today's study. So again, greetings to the Mishpachah worldwide, to the four corners of the earth, throughout the Caribbean, to the Mishpachah over in South and Central America. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to you all, and Shabbat Shalom to the family right in these divided states of America. And throughout Canada, likewise, across that border, Shabbat Shalom to Brother Benjamin and our French-speaking Hebrews over there too. I hope everything is going well with you. Shabbat Shalom to the Mishpachah across the pond over in the UK, to our brother Dawid and brother Yosef and Lamhart and Sister Nikki and all the others, that too many names to mention. Over in the Netherlands, Shabbat Shalom to you all over there. It's probably getting ready to, the sun is probably getting ready to set over there. I'm not even sure. I think it's like 5 hours ahead, 6 hours ahead. Shabbat Shalom to our brother over in Deutschland, Brother Malita. Shalom to you and to all the Mishpachah in Europe, to the Mishpachah over in the middle of the East, in the continent of Africa. Shabbat Shalom to the family in the Far East and to all the other islands of the sea. May the Most High be with you and bless you accordingly. Let's have a word of prayer. I will ask Elder to do a short prayer that we can get right into our class today, and let us focus on our studies, because this is a very important study in this captivity.
Heavenly Father, we come before your presence at this time. We give you thanks and praise for watching over us during the days of the week, the hours of the night. We thank you again, Father, that you have gathered us here together on this holy Shabbat day. We lift you up, we praise you, we bless you today for this wonderful gathering. We pray, Father, on the behalf of each and every one of us that are listening to your words today. We pray, dear God, that any sick among us that may touch their bodies, that they may receive healing. We pray for the words that is going to be spoken today by your teacher, that thou may speak to him, speak through him, and speak for him. And also our reader, that everything will go fluently, that your people may be blessed today. Bless us, guide us, and take care of all of us, because we ask it through your Son, our Lord and Savior. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Hallelujah. All praises to our King. Again, greetings, family, in the name of the Most High, and Shabbat Shalom to the Mishpachah worldwide. We have a very interesting class today. I have received, and this is over a period of time now, this is not just the other day, but I've been receiving questions with regards to interracial marriages. And I believe it's time to at least start conversation on the subject. And I'm pretty sure that we will have other discussions in the future with regards to these things. Also, we find that there's a habit among people not to look at previous classes. They don't go into the library and see what books are on the shelf. They just simply see the last book on the shelf, and they take this book, and then they say, well, first of all, like, why are your head covered? Do you believe in such and such? But if they go to the librarian or just go look in the file, they'll see there's a whole lot of topics. Just got to go through it. Sometimes we have classes that answers the questions within the class itself, or you may have let's say we talk about the Shabbat, and sometimes we may make a reference or give an answer for a different question within that topic. So it's not as if we have never answered certain things. It's just that unless you go through those classes, you're not going to really see the answer. So I guess it's important for us sometimes to just have a direct conversation and address those things like head covering and baptism and stuff like that. So yes, we have been receiving questions about interracial marriage, and I wanted to go through the scriptures, the Bible, and to at least look to see what the historical content is and how the patriarchs and our forefathers and everyone else dealt with the subject, but also what the Most High had to say with regards to this particular topic. In the book of Acts chapter 15, we have an interesting meeting with the apostles, and this is in verses 21, Acts 15 and verses 21. Let me pull it up so we all can see it. This is, again, a council, a meeting amongst the disciples. They were the leaders that the Messiah left in charge to bring the word out to the diaspora. Shaul was one of the later ones who joined. And so they were out teaching, as book of Matthew, the last chapter says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, baptizing in the name of the Messiah and so forth. And if you don't have the proper understanding, you may believe that it's to basically every single person, but it is basically to go and let the word go out, and the Ruach will connect with those who are of the dispersion. In the book of Acts 15, we have many of the dispersion who were actually returning, and it was brought to all of the leaders' attention to be patient. And this is what it has to say. Let's read Acts 15 and 21. This is the ruling, or part of the ruling, by the apostles.
For Moses of old time had every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogues every Shabbat day.
It says Moses of old time. The Torah is normally preached within those synagogues in the different cities. So the people that are returning will have an opportunity to learn the Torah, what the Most High have to say, and they will make those adjustments as they learn. Okay. And this is what we're dealing with today. We have a lot of people who have already been in certain marriages, and they are waking up to the truth, and they want to understand, what should I do from here on? This is a great question, because we do have other Hebrews who are teaching that if you are in a marriage with someone from another nation and you come to the knowledge of the truth, that you should just throw that person out and get someone from the Hebrew nation. And so we will go into some of these things today, Most High willing. So let's get right to it. We do have a lot of stuff to cover. We have this disclaimer. It's very, very brief. Hopefully you should make the point, whereas this is not an in-depth study about the subject of interracial marriages per se, but it's definitely not covering the theories regarding the origins of mankind. We're not dealing with the phenotypes of people, skin color, hair texture, height, weight, even about foods and all that stuff. This is not a study on that. We can always have a study about racial differences or even the term race itself. That's another topic of discussion. We're not going to go into the topic of race per se. It may come up in conversation to have a little, touch on the subject just a little bit, but we're not making this a discussion, okay? And we're definitely not talking about divorce. That's another subject by itself, okay? But we will cover what the Bible has to say. We have a lot of things to read, so let's get right to it. This question, was it the Most High's intention for all mankind to be one people? Or did he intended for us to be divided into different nations, kindreds, languages, and so forth? And if so, did he establish boundaries, laws, etc., to ensure separation of these people? So this is the question that we're putting on the table. Again, was it the Most High? Remember, the Most High he's the creator. He is the creator. So the book of Jeremiah, and there are other places where it mentions that he is the potter, right? And we are the clay. And he can do whatever he wants to do with his creation. As long as we establish that, we can't go about our own thinking and say to ourselves what we feel based upon our own thoughts and culture and whatnot, okay? Now, division itself has been pretty much looked at in a negative light. And that's what Satan likes to do. Now, in the kingdom of beasts, we have divisions of different types of creatures. The lion, you have the leopard, you have the cheetah, for example. These are different types of cats. They're still of the same cat family, but they're different types. And you have also the tiger. Different sizes, they hunt differently. They have different speeds, okay, and such like, and different habits and stuff. You also have birds. The Bible speaks about this in the book of Leviticus. There are different kinds of birds, okay, different types of birds, and after their kind. You have horses, you have donkeys. Is that correct? And then if you put the donkey with the horse, you're going to have a mule which doesn't bear any offspring. And if you try to put two mules together, you're not going to have a separate kind. They just don't bear. Okay, they're sterile and such like. So the Most High made everything to honor him, and he set boundaries. Okay, so we're asking a question, but in the real world, the reality is he did set boundaries. The problem is that when men look at stuff, they look at things in a negative light as though there's some prejudice. Even within the house of Israel, there are boundaries. You have the tribe of Levi, which were set apart a little bit higher than the other tribes. And then you have the tribe of Judah that was selected to bring forth the kings. It didn't say that Judah was better than Issachar. It's just the Most High decided what he wanted to do. Again, when we look at the different classifications of peoples, you have people of really dark complexion, and then you have people of really, really light complexion, pink. People have been using the term white versus black, which that's just a bad description anyway. And then you have all shades of color in between, and you have speckled people, like the sister that you see on the screen here with blue eyes. Speckled birds, speckled people. Is there something wrong? Well, it depends on the conditions. If you put people with very light complexion and make them live in places where the sun is always hot and so forth, they can live, but they're gonna have problems. Okay, it's just the way that the Most High made us. It doesn't mean that they are not the Most High's creation. that one is better than the other. You have people with different types of hair. In India, you have people that are even darker than people in Africa, or maybe just as dark as some of the bluest black people in Africa. They call them Dravidians or South Asians. And these people have curly hair. Some of them have wavy hair. Some of them have straight hair. Some of their eyes look red. Okay, the white of the eyes is very reddish looking. But they have very dark skin. And then when you travel to other places in India, you see people with lighter skin. Africa has different variations of complexions and also variations of hair. I remember a friend of mine from Ethiopia invited me to a gathering. And when I came there, I saw amongst Ethiopians that the men have more of a woolly type hair. The women have straighter and wavier hair, and they look slightly different from the males. And I wondered about that. And sometimes that's how it is in different places. Unfortunately, when we generalize things, we make a lot of mistakes. We say every person is black is from Africa, and that's not true, because you can go to Tibet and you find dark-skinned people in Tibet with very slanted eyes, broad noses, just like in Africa. And in Africa, you find people with wavy hair and very slim noses. And this has nothing to do with European influence. You have people in South Africa, the Bushmen of South Africa, light skin, very light skin, and they also have slanted eyes like someone in Tibet, and very tight curled hair. The hair is not bad compared to a European hair, which is straight. There are differences, and all the differences are something that the Most High did, because we all came from him. Like, those people didn't fall from space and then here. You will hear a lot of theories about the races of men. Like I said, we're not going to go into all that because it creates this madness. But what we can do is look from the time of the ship when Noah landed on shore, and deal from that point of view and see and look and say, okay, has there been any change from since that time till now? We can see how there's been some changes in terms of people traveling and mixing and whatnot. But we will see what the Most High have to say in his word so we can get a proper understanding. Unfortunately, mankind has made up classifications in terms of which one is more superior than the other and so forth. And to be honest, we are all on the same playing field. We're all on the same level. But there is a difference that the Most High makes, but that's on a different level altogether. We'll go into that too. You're going to find good people within all peoples of the earth, and you're going to find very evil people amongst all peoples of the earth. That is just a given. Sometimes people say, well, a particular set of people are just very evil. And we can see by the works of people, by the fruit that they produce, you can say, generally speaking, in that amongst these people, but you can't say that all of the people are so and so. And throughout history, we can also see how within Israel itself, the tribe of Benjamin was almost wiped out because Benjamin started to practice a sodomite lifestyle. Okay, we can go through history and find pockets of history where there was great evil, and then we can see where there was some good. All right, but we're not discussing that today, and we just want to deal with how the Most High views things. I think if we can put ourselves from that perspective and stand where he stands and look at the creation, we will have a better understanding of life. Now, with that said, there are definitely important things for us to make a distinction. There are separations according to the Most High's word, okay? There are separations, so. One of the problems that I have seen is dealing with this issue about Eden. Usually when there's a conversation about marriages or about race and all these different things, people normally revert back to the Garden of Eden as if that's the original plan of the Most High. But I always ask this question because in the Garden of Eden, as you see in this picture, we see that Adam and Eve were naked. Now, in the world, we do know that there are people who live in the nude in the jungles or in the deserts or wherever that they are isolated. There are people who live in the nude. So you can say that that is kind of like the Garden of Eden to some degree. But there are many things, like, for example, in the Garden of Eden, let's say it's a city like New York. Let's just use that to kind of test this theory out. So let's say that Eden is the size of New York, and Adam and Eve had many children, and over the years, they continue to multiply. Do you think that over, I don't know, 200 years, 300 years, that the city of New York or Eden would be able to hold all those people? Absolutely not. Eventually, they'll have to leave Eden and go outside. Is it possible that the Most High was planning to use the children of Adam and Eve to bring forth nations? Is it possible that they would have broken into different nations to have their own little places on the earth? Is it possible? It's possible. I mean, the same way that you have certain creatures, certain animals that migrate and live within certain regions of the world. You have different types of horses that some like to be close to the desert, and some like to be near the forest, and some like to be different places, and that's where they reside. Just like elephants, you have different species of elephants, short ones in the jungle, some that were dealing with the cold weather, they call them mammoth. Some sheep like to be in the desert, and some sheep like to be on top of mountaintops in the cold. Okay? So we didn't have enough history, if I can simplify it, with Adam and Eve to understand or to have a better picture of how the world, how the earth was going to be set up. We just don't have it. And it'll be wrong in our part to say this is how it's going to be. When in fact, when you look at it, if you start having children and you're not dying, you can't keep everyone in the Garden of Eden. Okay? All right. So we cannot say, well, we're all one people. One, in fact, Shaul mentions we all come from one blood. You all remember that? We all come from one blood. So yes, we came from one blood. That is correct. But did the Most High intended for us to be as one people, or did he have a plan of division? Okay. So what we're going to do is go through a few things. Let's go to the book of Genesis first of all. And let's go to Genesis chapter, let's see where we want to go. Yes, we're going to go to the table of nations and take a look at that first. And then we're going to start to go through some other things in the Bible. So let's get Genesis chapter 11. No, we're going to go to chapter 10, and then we will go to 11. So let's go to chapter 10. Let's read, Brother Pincus, let's read verses 1.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras.
All right, you can stop there because we're not going to read the whole genealogy, but it starts with the sons of Japheth. Let's go to verses 5. So Japheth, and now it's, if you notice, Japheth doesn't have much reading here. It's just go verses 2, and it stops at verses 4. Okay? But you're going to see more emphasis is placed upon Ham and also Shem. And it's that way for a reason, because we're writing this story or this history from the Hebraic perspective. And we're writing this story based upon the interaction that we had amongst people. And we had very minimal interaction with the seed of Japheth. It was only until the times of the Greeks that we started to have a deeper interaction with Japhetic people, but mainly we dealt with Hamitic and also Shemitic people. So let's see what verses 5 is saying.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided
What?
divided
Uh-huh.
in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations.
Now this is kind of speaking in the future, because in chapter 11, we're going to go into some of that reading to understand certain divisions. But if you notice, the Bible is letting us know that there was a division. Did we all see that? And even within Japheth, one particular son of Noah, there was a division. Now, we're not going to go into that particular study, because within Japheth you have Germanic people, French people, you have Russians, you have Italians, you have, so many different types of people within that particular region where Japheth settled. They all had their own language, they had their own customs, and they protected their borders. Today we call them Europeans. Some parts of Asia is regarded also as tribes of Japheth. But like I said, we're not going into that study. So please do not be distracted or diverted into that. We want to stick to the subject at hand. We can always have a part 2 or 3 or whatever on that particular topic. So we have a division. That's what we're looking at. They're called Gentiles. They're divided. They also have separate languages. And the Bible also calls them families, not family. Japheth was broken into families. Okay? Now, let's read verses 6. Just 6, and then we're going to move on.
And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, Put, and Canaan.
Let's skip on down to verses 8.
And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
Verses 10.
And the beginning of his kingdom,
that's Nimrod's kingdom,
was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar.
All right. Now, let us skip on down to, I wanted him to read that because when we go to chapter 11, we will continue there with the division, okay? Now, let's skip on down. And through Ham, you have the Canaanites. You see that? The Canaanites, verses 15, Canaan. All right. So let's go down to verses 20 to close out the seed of Ham.
These are the sons of Ham after their families.
After their families.
After their tongues.
That's languages.
In their country.
So it's not one country. They all have countries, separate places, right?
And in their nations.
And so they have nations also. Okay? Now let's read verses 21.
Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born.
Okay, so we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to go down to, let me see. Read verses 25.
And unto Eber were born 2 sons.
Mm-hmm.
The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided.
So there was a division within the earth. You all see that? Okay, read.
And his brother's name was Joktan.
So now let's go on down to verses 31 and 32.
These are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
So the Bible is letting us know that there was an actual division. So when you go at the question again, Was it the Most High intention for all mankind to be one people, or divided into different nations, kindreds, which is families, and such like? And we can see clearly that the Most High did have a natural division that took place. Is that correct? All right. So that is part of his plan. Now let's go to chapter 11 and let us take a look. I'm going to start at verses 1. Remember, we read about Nimrod. Okay, chapter 11, verses 1.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
Verses 4.
And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven.
So they wanted a headquarters. Okay, read.
And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
So at this particular time, Nimrod himself became a very powerful man, as the Bible says, a mighty hunter. And the whole system of religion, idolatry, all of that stuff came about through this unique individual. Remember, he came from the seed of Ham, the head of gold, Hamitic people, and established the place of Babylon. And if you notice carefully, his concern was scattering. Now, the word Nimrod means marad, which means to rebel. So his character was one who went against or rebelled against the Most High. Now, let's read verses 5, because we can see that the Most High is actually giving us a glimpse about his intention. Verses 5.
And Yahuwah came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men build. And Yahuwah said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do.
Verses 7.
Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech.
So let's find out what his intentions were. Verses 8.
So Yahuwah scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city.
So the Most High confounded the language as a means to ensure separation. The language barriers. Okay, that was part of his plan. Okay, please make a note of that. Now, in our time, they will call that segregation. But the Most High wanted to preserve people as he intended them to be. And today, people are trying to go against that. And when you do these things, we always reap the whirlwind. We always have problems. All right? Let's read verses 9.
Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because Yahuwah did therefore there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did Yahuwah scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
Okay, let's go to the book of Jubilees, and we're going to go to chapter 15. The book of Jubilees and chapter 15. Now, the book of Jubilees is based on an occurrence, an account where Moses, when he went up to the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, he had received pretty much the beginning of the world and also the end of the world. He saw prophecies, what existed before his time and what will be occurring after his time. We want to go down to 27. That's what I'm looking for, verses 27. And we're going to read what the Most High intention was, because when you read about the family of Shem, we will see that the Most High took Abraham from the seed of Shem. This is where we have the term Shemites. And from there, he began a filtering process. He started to work with a particular seed. In agrarian culture, we call this heirloom seed. You start to filter out certain seeds, not to say that the other seeds can't be used, but you start to look at particular seed, and then you say, this is producing, so far this has been producing decent fruit, and I'm going to start working with this and start filtering out until I get what I'm looking for, and I'll work with this from here on. And normally when people see that you have produced a wonderful crop, then they will start to inquire, and they will say, okay, let us have some of what you have. Either you can give us some plants or the fruit from that. In the case of human beings or mankind, the Most High did the same thing with the seed of mankind, because the Bible says we are trees, okay? And he looked at the fruit of a particular people, and he took from the tree of Shem, Abraham, okay? And from there, he started the agricultural process of creating a heirloom seed, which we call today Israel. When he got what he was looking for, he pretty much kept this particular family line of seed. And at some point in time, the seed got contaminated, and the rest is history. Okay, so now what we're going to do in the book of Jubilees, chapter 15, is look at what the Most High did with Abraham with this heirloom seed he called Israel. And he's making a distinction between what he has chosen to be his seed, his royal seed, with regards to the other nations. So let's read verses 27 to see what Moses had received. Jubilees 15 and 27.
For all the angels of the presence and all the agents of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation. And before the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification, he had sanctified Israel.
He sanctified Israel. Read.
That they should be with him and his holy angels. And do thou command the children of Israel, and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance, and they will not be rooted out of the land. For
well, 1 second. So, will not be rooted out of the land. This is also agrarian language. Rooted, like a tree, like a plant. So he had these angels that were set up specifically to oversee, to take care of Israel. Verses 29.
For the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among all the children of Israel.
Verses 30.
For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, Yahuwah did not cause to approach him, and he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people.
Okay. So it says Ishmael obviously was a Shemite. You know, today we have Jewish people saying that the Arabs are anti-Shemites. Okay, anti-Shemites. They will say, you're anti-Semitic. No, how can they be anti-Semitic? As long as you're an Arab, you're Semitic, right? Shemitic. And his brothers and Esau, Yahuwah did not cause to approach him. He chose them not because they are the children of Abraham. So he was making a separation here too, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. Verses 31.
And he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst all the children of men, for they are many nations and many peoples.
They are different. There are many nations. So there was already established on the earth many nations and many people. Read.
And all are his.
And all are what?
All are his.
Mm-hmm.
And over all had he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him.
So the Most High know that everything that he made belongs to him. And what did he do? He sent spirits to take these other nations. This is what we call separation. Spirits which would lead the people and had control over the other nations. But for Israel, he didn't do so. Now, what this is also teaching us is that there's a reason why we shouldn't be involved with other nations. Because not only are you getting the flesh from the other nations or the seed, but you're also getting the spirits that has been assigned to those other nations. Do you all understand what I'm saying? Because the Bible is letting us know these are scrolls that even the other nations have in their possession, and they can read it for themselves. And when we go into the Torah, it will also teach us the same thing. The Most High have spirits connected to the other nations. And this is why those other nations practice certain lifestyles, marriages. They have certain things that they keep as far as religion is concerned. We call it idolatry. There are certain foods that those people eat. Okay? And so their whole way of doing stuff, the Most High have separated people and caused them to go in a different direction, but Israel, he kept for himself. Let's read verse 32, and then we're going to move on, okay?
But over Israel, he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his and he may be theirs from henceforth forever.
So, and you can stop there. So we can see that circumcision, if you read on, it speaks about the ordinance of circumcision. That was not given to the other nations. This was an ordinance. If they want to circumcise themselves, because you have in certain cultures in Africa that they circumcise the women. There are certain cultures who do certain things. It doesn't make them Israelites. It's just that they want to go ahead and do what they're doing. But the Most High gave us a certain set of guidelines to distinguish us from the other nations. So with that said, we'll come back to Jubilees in a little bit, but let's go right into the book. We're going to kind of like go through the Bible in the order that it is written, okay? So now let's go to Abraham to get a view of how Abraham lived out his life. We will see some things here that will spark our interest and even our conversation, maybe even create some debate, but it's the outcome. Remember we read about Ishmael, right? In the book of Jubilees, that even though Ishmael is from Abraham, the Most High did not set him to be part of the chosen, okay? So let's look at Abraham. This is the closest picture I can get of Abraham, my own personal imagination. So let's read Genesis chapter 16, and let us read verses 1 to verses 3. We're going to take a little walk through the Bible, and we're going to visit some things, and believe you me, the answer will come as far as interracial marriage. Okay, it will come. Let's read.
Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold, now Yahuwah had restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her.
I will obtain children through this surrogate situation. Okay, read.
And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian,
Mm-hmm.
after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife.
So it was the wife's decision to make Hagar Abraham's wife. Is that correct? Okay. But if you notice carefully, Hagar was Egyptian. And if you go back into the table of nations in Genesis chapter 10, Mizraim is the biblical name for Egypt. Okay. So Hagar was from the seed of, or the families of Ham. Do you all understand that? So Abraham had a wife that was Hamitic. Now, when our people read this, or many people read this, not just our people, they would say, well, Abraham set the standard and say he had this woman as his wife, and therefore, you see, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The Most High, again, in the book of Genesis and Jubilees, had driven Ishmael out and also Hagar. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So he driven them out for a reason. And Ishmael became a very powerful people. And he also had princes. And the Bible says he became the progenitor or the father of the Arab nations. Okay? So there are, in particularly, family, relatives to Israel, to us. Okay? So now let's continue, because we're not done. We're just looking at what the Bible says. Now let's go to 24 verses 1 to verses 9. Genesis 24, 1 to 9. Let's read.
And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Yahuwah had blessed Abraham in all things.
Mm-hmm.
And Abraham said unto his eldest servant of his house, that ruled over all that he had, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh,
Mm-hmm.
and I will make thee swear by Yahuwah, the Elohim of heaven, and Yahuwah of the earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites.
Of who?
Of the Canaanites.
Of the Canaanites. Did it say Egyptians? Canaanites. Read.
Among whom I dwell.
Mm-hmm.
But thou shalt go unto my country and to my kindred.
Unto my kindred. That's family. Read.
And take a wife unto my son Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And the servant said unto him, peradventure the woman will not be willing to follow me unto this land. Must I needs bring thy son again unto the land from whence thou camest?
If I am not successful in getting a bride, when I return back, should I bring your son back to the place where he can find a wife for himself? Now, we're going to pause for a moment because I want to revisit Abraham and Hagar. We do have amongst awakening Hebrews, maybe I'm using the term a little too generous, because even though they claim to be awakened, they're still asleep. Because they will actually call the Egyptians or Hamites dirty and nasty Hamites, and they will say all kinds of very derogatory words about Hamitic people. And again, they're using the same broken mindset that the European slave masters have been using to generalize people. And they're applying that same thing that they don't want for themselves onto another nations of people. In Africa, you have different nationalities. And everyone in Africa is dirty or making mud cakes or living in mud houses and whatnot. And even if they made mud houses, all of them are not dirty. Okay, it is unfair that we should be using this type of language. Okay, we should not be this, have this mindset. Now, Abraham Hagar herself was a princess from the courts of Pharaoh. Do you think that Pharaoh was a mud eater? Of course not. So when we have Hebrew sisters who say Hagar was a dirty woman, and you're also insulting Sarah, and you're also insulting Abraham too, because Abraham laid with her and they had a child together. You're going to start to say, because with that type of a mindset, now you're saying that Abraham is also dirty. Is that correct? All right. So let's get that off the table and let's try to bring some sense to our people. Okay, let's continue verses 6 to verses 9.
And Abraham said unto him, Beware thou that thou bring not my son thither again. Yahuwah of heaven, which took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, Unto thy seed will I give this land. He shall send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife unto my son from thence.
So the Most High is going to send an angel, a guide, that you can be able to choose someone from my kindred, not from the other nations. Now, we can see that Abraham was making a choice here, and something that he clearly understood. He didn't want his son to have a wife from amongst the Canaanites, the peoples that he were living around. He didn't want to have his son Isaac to marry from the seed of Ham. Even though he had a wife that was Hamitic, that was a surrogate situation. Okay? Why didn't Sarah go back to Syria and find a woman that can bring forth children for Abraham? I want you all to think about that, okay? Let's move on.
And if the woman will not be willing to follow thee, then thou shalt be clear from this my oath. Only bring not my son thither again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swear to him concerning that matter.
So his hand was placed by the jewels, because it's the thing that you can swear highest. You know, in our day, we have people say, I swear upon my parents, my father or my mother. Usually it's the mother they swear on. But in this case, this oath was so important that Abraham wanted to ensure that his servant understood the importance of it and took this high oath. Now let's go to skip down to verses 36 to verses 38. This is Eleazar speaking to the family as he arrived with the caravan in Syria. Now he's speaking to the family, which is Laban, and Laban's family concerning a wife, okay, for his master. Let's read.
And Sarah, my master's wife, bare a son to my master when she was old, and unto him had he given all that he had. And my master made me swear, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but thou shalt go unto my father's house and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son.
Again, we can see the mindset of Abraham, what he's doing, okay? Let's go to Jacob and Esau. Well, let us deal with these twins here, and let us see what the Bible has to say with regards to Jacob and Esau. Genesis chapter 25, let us read verses 21 to 23. This also gives us an understanding how the Most High makes divisions. He still makes divisions, and he's doing it for a reason. So we can't revert back to the mindset, well, we're all come from one person, which is Adam, and such like. No, even though we all came from Adam, the Most High had a plan to divide, to separate, to have different people in different areas and such like, okay? So let's read.
And Isaac entreated Yahuwah for his wife, because she was barren. And Yahuwah was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus?
So she wants to know, why is there a struggle or fight going on in my belly? Read.
And she went to inquire of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
2 what?
2 nations are in thy womb.
So there are 2 different nations within her body. Read.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated.
Shall be separated. And I put it here in blue so we all can see. You have 2 nations, even though they came from the same parents, but they are 2 separate nations. Read.
2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Mm-hmm.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
All right. Now let us go to Deuteronomy 32. Let me pull it up on the screen here. And I want us to take a look about the division of this earth. Deuteronomy 32, and we're going to look at verses 8. Actually, let's start at 7.
Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee.
So go back to the history books. You see, the elders have a practice of oral traditions and history being passed on from one generation to the other. So you talk to your grandfather and he will tell you, son, it was like this back in the day, and this is what we did, and all that kind of stuff. Is that correct? So they were the living history book. All right, so read on.
When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he had separated the sons of Adam.
Wait a minute. When the Most High did what?
Separated the sons of Adam,
mm-hmm.
He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
So this is called predestination. There was a plan from the very beginning that the Most High was to divide people, not to have them all as one people, but to have separate people. The lions and the tigers and the cheetahs and the leopards, they all have their own places, their own cry, their own way of raising the little ones. So when the Most High divided, that's what the text is saying, divided the nations their inheritance, he separated the sons of Adam. He separated the sons of Adam. He set the bounds of the people, which he separated according to the number of the children of Israel. He looked at all his plan. He says, okay, this is how big a garden I'm going to have. This is all the land that I need, and I'm going to separate them here. So I'm going to secure this area. But so the rest of the world, peoples, they can have the rest of the world. But for Israel, this is the line of demarcation. This is the borders, okay? Verses 9.
For Yahuwah's portion is his people.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob is the lot of his inheritance.
Hallelujah. Thank you for reading that, brother. Now let's move on. Let's go to Genesis chapter 26. We're going to read 34, 35. So we're looking at Esau and how he behaved himself and see if he was favored for his actions or not. Okay? If this was something just, I'm looking for a wife and, I want to have a family. If it was just based on getting married, then why do we find this issue written in the scriptures? Let's read 26, 34 to 35.
Genesis 26, 34, 35. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite,
Mm-hmm.
and Bashmath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite,
Mm-hmm.
which were a grief of mine unto Isaac and Rebekah.
It was a good thing for them.
A grief of mine.
They were happy.
Grief of
It was a
mine.
grief unto them. Now they lived among people that when they looked around, it says no. If you notice carefully on this map, you can see where on the bottom it says Edomites. This is where Esau had settled. But the north of that, right in the center, says Hittites. Do y'all see that? Let me get my little pen here for Hebrews who like a little bit of art activity in the class. Right here. See that? See what says Hittites? Hittites. They're Hittites, Hittites, right to the top here, and Hivites up here, and Hivites over here. Notice this is Canaanites over here, Perizzites, Canaanites on this side, Amorites, Moabites, Philistines. Now these are all the people that came from Ham, but they were all divided up into their own territories, except with Edom. Okay? The Moabites came from what family? Anyone knows? Lot's children. The Amorites came from the same family of Lot, right? Okay. So in the book of Genesis 26, it says that Isaac and Rebekah were grieved because of the decision that Esau made as a grown man. He was 40 years old, and he grieved. He broke their heart. Let's get Genesis 27, 46, and let's see what the book is saying also. Read.
And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me?
So she's saying, well, what good is my life? I've basically raised children for nothing, to be wasted. I went through all of this labor. I raised my children in this house, my boys, so that I can have grandchildren to give me horror. Family, there's a reason why the Most High is saying to Israel that they need to be separate. I told you all from the beginning is because there's a spirit connection that most people don't see. Most people don't go out looking to take a wife and analyze the spirit, not just within Israel, but the spirits that are connected, because they don't know. Most of them don't know. They see people on the surface as we're all just people, and they don't see what is happening below the surface. They cannot see what's happening. But the Most High knows what he's doing. He's the potter. We are the clay. We have to listen to his voice, what he's saying, okay? Now, what good shall my life do me? Let's go to Genesis 28, and we're going to read verses 1 to 9. Let's see what Isaac said to Jacob. They were twins, but they had two different spirits. Remember, we read that in Jubilees. Same womb, two different nations, two different spirits. The Most High dealt with one and rejected the other one. Let's read.
And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padanaram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. And Yahuwah Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people.
A multitude of many peoples. A multitude of people, okay? So this was what Isaac was saying. He says, Elohim will bless you. Isn't that what we want, family? Don't we want to be blessed? And what we're doing is looking at the mindset. They are seeing things on two levels, both the physical and also the spiritual. How are we looking at things? Let's read on, verses 4.
And give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherein thou art a stranger, which Yahuwah gave unto Abraham. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padanaram unto Laban, son of Bethuel,
the Syrian.
the Syrian.
Notice it says Syrian. It's calling him a Syrian, but he's not Syrian like we see Syrian today. It's because that's the place that he dwelt. All right? Just like you have a Trinidadian in New York, you don't call him a Yankee. He's a Trinidadian. Okay? All right, from Trinidad. All right, Trini. Verses 5. Let's read.
And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to
Padanaram. I know.
unto Laban, the son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother.
So you notice that he followed the instructions. He could have married someone around the way, around the block, but he didn't do this. Okay, because it was a spiritual thing happening. Let's read verses 6 down to, it looks like I got something mixed up here, to verses 9. Okay, verses 9.
When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob,
he did what? He saw that Isaac blessed Yaakov. He saw Isaac blessed him. Okay, read.
And sent him away to Padanaram to take him a wife from thence, and that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and was gone to Padanaram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael,
Shemitic,
and took unto the wives which he had Mahalad, and the daughters of Ishmael,
the daughter of Ishmael,
the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife.
All right. So Esau saw that he displeased his parents, and he decided, let me go over to Ishmael, and I'll take from his stock, his family lineage. Okay. At this particular time, you remember Ishmael he's Shemitic, but at the same time, he has Hamitic connections too. All right. So this is the father of the Arabs. Let's get Genesis 34, and we're going to read verses 8 to verses 16. Right at the bottom.
And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give him to.
All right, now let's pause for a moment. This is dealing with Jacob when, remember, Dinah was raped by those Canaanite peoples, right? And so he's saying, well, my son, he has an itch that he wants to scratch for this love for Dinah, and wanted her. So this is what was said. Let's read verses 9.
And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you.
So we want to have an exchange so that the Canaanites will be married unto the Hebrews and will be one people. Read.
And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be for you.
The land will be for you. It'll be your land.
Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what he shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as he shall say unto me.
So he's saying, just ask me what your price is for, your bride price is, and I will pay it. Okay, read.
But give me the damsel to wife.
But I have to have her. Yes. 34. Okay, so I made a mistake there. I'm sorry. 34. All right. So apologize for that. That's a cut and paste. Okay, let's read verses 13.
And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister.
Okay. Verses 14.
And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that we're a reproach
For that
unto us.
were an approach unto her. So circumcision was part of the separation of the peoples, to say, well, you are set apart unto the Most High, whereas the other nations didn't have this. And just to circumcise the people just because of you want to come in contract with the people is not what that's not the rules that the Most High set for Israel. He didn't say go circumcise these people and then those people will be my people too. It's the Most High who's making a choice. He's the one that is making a choice and saying, you're going to be for me. You can't go and find people and make those people for me. I am making you for me, and this is the rules of how we're going to be one. Okay? Now let's read verses 15 to 16.
But in this will we consent unto you, if he will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people.
One people. Now let's take a look at the patriarchs. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 38, and we're going to read verses 1 to verses 7. Genesis 38, verses 1 to verses 7. All right, so we saw that Jacob wanted to make a peace treaty through marriage with the Canaanites, which Abraham says, don't marry these people. And that same mindset was passed on. Now, Jacob had this within his mind, and Jacob went and did this thing, and the sons says, no, we can't have this stuff. Were they wrong? No, they weren't wrong. They were correct. And they went and destroyed all those people. That was a reinforcing the whole understanding of being separate, okay? Let's read Genesis 38, verses 1 to 7.
And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite,
A dull woman, Dulamite,
whose name was Hera. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shula, and he took her and went in unto her, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name
So you might as well call him Era instead of Judah erred. He took himself a daughter of a certain Canaanite. Was he supposed to do that? And we're going to see through that relationship, he got nothing but headaches. Let's continue on.
And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shilah. And he was at Chisbib when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah slew him.
Okay. So we can see that his firstborn was killed by the Most High. Then you go to the next one, he was killed. And you keep going on the line until Judah says, you know, that's enough. That's it. It had nothing to do with the wife, the daughter. It had to do with the offspring. There's a spiritual attachment here that the Most High wants us to really look at. And sometimes our flesh makes us ignore certain things. But also, I don't want our people, especially those in the chat room or anyone listening afterwards, to feel, what am I supposed to do now? Well, the question that you're asking, what am I supposed to do if you're married to someone of a different nation? We'll tackle that. But the mere fact that you're asking this question is a clue that you were ignorant before. Ignorance is what have us in this condition today. We have made a lot of ignorant choices, and in churchianity, all of us are one people. That's what they say, but yet all the churches are not one. They have different denominations. This whole idea that you find from church to church of we all came from Adam, and therefore it's okay, we shouldn't be racist or whatever. It has nothing to do with being racist. Germans were given their territory, Russians their territory, people, the different tribes in Africa, the different tribes in India, the different tribes in Asia, I mean, different places. Everyone was given their places to live. The Most High wanted people to respect those areas and not try to mix things up. It's not saying, well, those people are deficient. It's just that the Most High made it to be so for a reason, okay? All right, so let's move on. Let's look at Genesis 41. I'm going to read verses 45. Now, again, the patriarchs, Judah himself was in a position to do better, but he didn't make the right choice. And the Most High stepped in and killed. Joseph was in a different situation. As far as Joseph was concerned, he was cut off from his family. Is that correct? Now, this is not an excuse because Joseph was a powerful man. He probably could have gone back and get someone from his family if he wanted to. But in this particular situation, did Joseph choose? Let's see what the book says. 41 and 45. Let's read.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name
Zaphnath-Paneah. Zaphnath-Paneah. Read.
and gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of
Potipharah.
priest of On.
Uh-huh.
And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt.
So notice it says that Pharaoh was the one who gave him the wife. Do you all see that? All right. Remember, Joseph was a prisoner. He was in captivity. Even though he was given the position to be in authority, it was the Most High's doing, but also he also received a wife from his slave master. His slave master was Pharaoh. He received a wife from his slave master. And the only reason he was given his position, apart from the spiritual side of it, which the Most High allowed, was because Pharaoh saw him, within him, the spirit of understanding, and set him for his advantage. And if you read the rest, you'll see where Pharaoh says, everything I put in your hands, but I'm above you. Same way with Potiphar, which gave Joseph all the power, but his wife was off the table, and certain things was off the table. Okay? All right, family. So we're building a case here. Let's move on to Moses. Moses. Let's take a look at Moses. Exodus chapter 2. We're going to read verses 15 to verses 16. Y'all laughing at Moses? George Moore looks like Moses? Let me see. You don't want to raise your head up? All right, let's read. Verses 15 and 16.
Now when Pharaoh heard this thing,
Uh-huh.
he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian and 7 daughters.
Read it again. Take your time.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters.
Uh-huh.
And they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock.
So Moses fled from Egypt. Where was Moses' people? Where was Moses' people when he fled?
In Egypt.
It was in Egypt. Okay. Now I could read something to you. I'll don't have it in front of me, but the book of Josephus. It gives you a little bit of history behind Moses. When Moses was a general in the Egyptian army, he went out to fight a war against the Ethiopians. Moses had a technique because there was a barrier between him winning this war against the Ethiopians, which was a bunch of snakes. And what Moses did was he got himself some ibis, the ibis birds. These are birds known to eat snakes, venomous snakes. So he took these birds and he released these birds, and the birds started to capture all these poisonous snakes, which was blocking him, his path from coming through and defeating the Ethiopians. When the the queen, I believe it was, and I'm just paraphrasing because I don't have the actual reading in front of me. When she saw, or the princess, when they saw the wisdom of Moses, they made a treaty. Moses actually married this Ethiopian back then. So this is his first wife, according to records, an Ethiopian woman. And this was a basically it wasn't a real matrimony, like something that he wanted to do to raise children. It was a political marriage. Okay, that's the word I'm looking for. It was a political marriage. Those of you who have watched the movie The Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston would see there's a certain part where Moses is coming back from a war. And they show you these Hamitic people, dark-skinned people dancing, and then there's this woman who walked up. She was a beautiful woman and took this thing from around her neck and that was the woman he had married. But they wouldn't tell you that in the movie. That was the woman that he had married. Now, Zipporah was a different woman. This is a different woman. Okay? So that was his first marriage. That's political. But Moses didn't have any children with her, as far as I remember. And when the thing came out where he was identified, he fled and went into Midian. So let's read. Exodus chapter 2, verses 21.
And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter.
And Moses was content to dwell with the man, which is the priest of Midian, and he gave Zipporah his daughter. So Zipporah was a Midianite. Anyone knows anything about the Midianites? Keturah's children. Remember, Abraham had one final wife before he passed away. He married a woman and he had some children with her, 6 sons, and one of them became the father of the Midianites. The Midianites. So basically, Zipporah was what? A Shemite. A Shemite, okay? So he married amongst the Shemites. Okay, so let's read verses 22.
And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land.
So Moses' son, Gershom, this is also one of the important names in the history of Israel, Gershom. And there was also another son too, okay? But it mentions Zipporah giving him this child. He married a Midianite, okay? So we're not confused about different nationalities and whatnot. However, let's move on. Let's go to Exodus 23. We're going to read 28 and 32. This is what the Most High said to Moses. Let's read.
And I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before thee. Verse 32. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods.
So Moses is being instructed. This is part of the Torah. You read, God spoke all his words saying from Exodus 20. This is Exodus 23. He says, I will send hornets, insects, to drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittite from before you. That was part of the removal of nations on the board. Again, you see the screen over here. You see the Hittite, the Hivites, and the Canaanites. Drive them out. Don't make any covenant with them. Family marriage is a covenant which connects peoples together, cultures together. And the Most High didn't want our people to be connected to these people. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 24. I'm going to read verses 10 to verses 11. Let's see what the Torah has to say also. This is during the time of Moses now, okay?
And the son of an Israelitish woman, whose father was an Egyptian, went out among the children of Israel.
Let's pause. The Bible is saying that there was a woman from Israel who was married to an Egyptian. Is that correct? But the question is, when was she married? And how is it that you have Egyptians among Israel in the wilderness? This came about when they were in the captivity, family. You have Egyptians that were married to Israelite women during the time of slavery in Egypt. Okay, so this Israelite woman had a husband who was from the seed of Ham. But there was a problem. And the Most High is revealing some of the problems right here in the text. Let's read.
And this son of the Israelitish woman and a man of Israel strove together in the camp.
So there was an argument. They fought.
And the Israelitish woman's son blasphemed the name of Yahuwah and cursed.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought him unto Moses, and his mother's name was Shelomith, and the daughters of Dibri of the tribe of Dan.
Kind of funny how the name is Debris. But if you notice carefully, it didn't put the emphasis upon the Egyptian man. You notice the emphasis is placed upon the woman. Why is that? Anyone knows? Why is the emphasis placed as if they're laying some blame here? Responsibility, I should say, huh? Because she should know better. Why? It's in the history. In our history, our oral history, it was always passed down through our oral history not to be married to certain people because of certain things will happen. Okay? There is always going to be some kind of a consequence that will occur. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But it's almost like Russian roulette. You put one bullet in there, you spin the thing, the gun, and you pull the trigger hoping that you can escape being shot in the head or shot in the foot. Please don't ever forget that the Most High said that there are spirits attached. Spirits attached. Every time we read and our mind drift off somewhere else, we lose that clear connection. It's very important. Yes, Ima.
Yeah. Going back to what you was saying concerning Moses and the Ethiopian wife, that in the movie, to remember that Moses was white and then she's black. So then during the time again, they had a segregation between the black and white.
Back in the 60s?
Yeah, back in those days. So if it is that allow that to come out, it might have caused cause some kind of a division even more.
Understood.
Or say, well, they have to get together. That's
Understood.
one of the things.
Let me see in the chat room. She was one of the first to be the first teacher of the child. That is true also. As a mother raising the child, one thing you should know is not to blaspheme the name of the Most High. But the emphasis was placed on her regardless. And let me see what I want to bring out here. And she's from the tribe of Dan also. Now let's move on, because we can see that there was what we would term today interracial marriages amongst the people. But was that favored by the Most High? It was not favored by him. Let's go to Numbers 12, verses 1. Numbers 12, verses 1. Let's see what the book says. It's on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman.
Now, if Moses had married this woman during the time of Egypt, they wouldn't have been bringing this stuff up, not unless they're really looking for trouble. But this was something that occurred later on. Remember, he was married to a Midianite. A Midianite and an Ethiopian are two different nationalities. One is from Shem and one is from Ham. So this is Moses' second wife that he has here. But notice that Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. When we go into the Torah a little bit deeper, you're going to see, family, that the Most High had specific rules of engagement when it comes to marriage. So we're going to cover all of that. We're going to cover all of that. Let's go to our next slide. So before I go there, you can see Ethiopia is right where it says Cush. Cush, right over here. This whole region would have been Ethiopia. And over here is considered to be Egypt. All of this stuff over here would be Egypt, okay? So the Most High in the Torah gave specific rules of engagement with regards to this particular neck of the woods, which we will cover as we continue our studies, all right? Numbers 31, we're going to read verses 7 to verses 19. I don't think I'm going to go into Numbers 25, but let's read verse 7.
And they warred against the Midianites as the Lord commanded Moses, and they slew all the males.
So this is a war as Israel traveled through the wilderness when they came against the Midianites, which is again of the seed of Shem, which is Abraham's offspring. And even though Moses was married to the Midianite people, or daughter of the Midianites, Moses had them slay all of the males. All of the males. Okay, didn't kill everyone, just the males. Let's read verses 8.
And they slew the kings of Midian besides the rest of them that were slain, namely Evie, and Rechem.
That sounds like very Hebrew. We have Rechem, the rappers, and this and that. Read on.
And Zur, and Hur, and Reba, 5 kings of Midian. Balaam also the son of Beor, they slew with the sword.
Read.
And the children of Israel took all the women of Midian captives, and their little ones, and took the spoil of all their cattle and all their flock and all their goods.
If you notice, it says they took all the women captives and their little ones. Why is that? Speaking to the mic. Because of what?
Yeah, because they want to start a new nation by the seed of the Hebrew
Start
people.
a new nation?
Well, a Hebrew...
They're not starting a new nation.
Well, I mean, and the Hebrew people, men will become...
Just more wives available for Israel.
Yeah, and plus the seed will be Hebrew.
Because it's through the men. That is correct.
Yeah.
All right. Say again.
That when the word said that the Most High sends spirits after those people, would not the women also have spirits that they're taking on?
This is true, but notice what the Most High is saying. As we go into the Torah, you'll see more detail on that. But also keep in mind, if we have to use that analogy, Moses would be in big trouble too, because his wife was from where? Midian, right? And also Gershom himself would not have served in the whole Levitical setup, not as a priest, but as a Levite. So keep that in mind. Let's read verses 10 to verses 14.
And they burnt all their cities wherein they dwelled, and all their goodly castles with fire. And they took all the spoil and all the prey, both of men and of beasts. And they brought the captives and the prey and the spoil unto Moses and Eleazar the priest, and unto the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by Jordan near Jericho.
Read.
And Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them without the camp. And Moses was wroth with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, which came from the battle.
All right. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper where we can see what Moses said to these men about the women. Let's see verses 15.
And Moses said unto them, have he saved all the women alive?
Have you kept all the women alive? This is what was said. Read.
Behold, these caused the children of Israel through counsel of Balaam,
through what?
the counsel of Balaam,
Uh-huh.
to commit trespasses against Yahuwah in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of Yahuwah. Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones.
Amongst who?
The little ones.
The little ones. Okay, read.
And kill every woman that had known man by lying with them.
Mm.
But all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves.
Mm-hmm. Keep alive for yourselves. Read.
And do ye abide without the camp 7 days. Whosoever had killed any person, and whosoever had touched any slain, purify both yourselves and your captives. And the third day,
On the third day.
and on the third day, and on the seventh day.
So if you look at this carefully, you can see that women who have the imprint of another man within them to destroy them. But the little ones, he says to do what? Keep them alive for yourself. Is that correct? Okay, let's go into the Torah now, and let's dig a little bit deeper. Deuteronomy 7, verses 1. These are the rules of engagement that the Most High gave. Verses 1.
When Yahuwah your Elohim shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it,
Uh-huh.
and had cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites,
Uh-huh.
and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when Yahuwah your Elohim shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other Elohims. So will the anger of Yahuwah be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
So now what we're looking at here is a specific list that the Most High set up. The Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. But remember, you also had Ammon, Moab that was there. Did he say anything about them? Was he in agreement that they should be with the seed of Lot? No, he wasn't. But this is a specific group that he wanted to have eliminated from the equation altogether. He did make some provisions, as we saw before with the Midianites, but it was not supposed to be a practice for Israel to be married to other nations. Let's move on. We're going to see some more about the Most High, what he says in the Torah. Verses 5 to verses 8.
But thus shall he deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
He shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire.
You will destroy their altars. You'll break their images. All of these things have to do with what? Idolatry and the spirit that's connected to the people through idolatry. Verse 6.
For thou art an holy people unto Yahuwah thy Elohim.
Uh-huh.
Yahuwah thy Elohim had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yahuwah did not set his love upon you, nor chose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. But because Yahuwah loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, had Yahuwah brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Let's continue on.
Know therefore that Yahuwah thy Elohim, he is Elohim, faithful Elohim, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments
Uh-huh.
to 1,000 generations.
So the reason I'm putting this up here is to show that the Most High is very serious about what he's saying, and also to understand that this covenant is a very important covenant to him, and it should also be very important to us. Let's continue on.
And repay it them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hated him. He will repay him to his face.
So how do we prove that we hate the Most High? When we don't keep his commandments. It's very simple. All right, read on.
Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day to do them. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if he hearken to these judgments and keep and to do them, that Yahuwah thy Elohim shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers.
All right, let's read on. This is important.
And he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee, and he will also bless the fruit of thy womb
Read.
and the fruit of thy land,
Mm-hmm.
thy corn, thy wine, thine oil, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep, and in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Thou shalt be blessed above all people.
Be blessed above all people. Read.
There shall not be male or female barren among you, or among your cattle.
So you'll be very fertile, and also your animals likewise. Read.
And Yahuwah will take away from thee all sicknesses,
Mm-hmm.
and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt which thou knowest upon thee,
Mm-hmm.
but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. And thou shalt consume all the people which Yahuwah thy Elohim shall deliver thee. Thine eyes shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their Elohims, for that will be a snare unto thee.
All right. So he's saying, again, the list that he put out there, don't pity these people, destroy them, because they'll become a snare to Israel. Let's go to chapter 20. I'm going to read from verses 10 to verses 18. So it says, when you come near unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim what? Peace unto it. Let's read verses 11.
And it shall be, if it make thee answer of peace and open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries
Tributary, pay taxes.
unto thee, and they shall serve thee.
Uh-huh.
And if it will make no peace with thee, but will make war against thee, then thou shalt besiege it. And when Yahuwah thy Elohim had delivered it into thine hands, thou shalt smite every male, therefore with the edge of the sword.
Mm-hmm.
But the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shalt thou take unto thyself, and thou shalt eat the spoil of thine enemies, which Yahuwah thy Elohim had given thee.
Now, to be clear, because some people will misunderstand the writings here, he's not speaking about the Hivites and the parasites and all those different people, parasites. He's talking about something else. All right, let's see what it says. Verse 15.
Thus shalt thou do unto all the cities which are very far off from thee.
If you come in to wage war against a city that is not on this list, that is very far from you, destroy the males, and you can keep the females that have not lain with a man. Read, which
are not of the cities of these nations,
read.
But of the cities of these people, which Yahuwah thy Elohim do give thee for an inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, but thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites, and the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, as Yahuwah the Elohim had commanded thee, that they teach you not to do after all their
You
abominations.
see what it says there? That they teach you not to do after all their abominations. We're going to see that in the book of Ezra. Let's read.
Which they have done unto their Elohims, so should ye sin against Yahuwah your Elohim.
All right, now we're going to go to the next chapter, chapter 21, verses 10 to 14. Let me read, brother, give you a little break. When you go forth to war against your enemies, and Yahuwah your Elohim have delivered them into your hands, and you have taken them captive, and seest among the captives what? A beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that you would have her to what?
Why?
And remember, we just read about the fire. You can go, when you war against those that are far, you can take the women, females, that has not been with a man, as a wife. Is that correct? Okay. So now this is a continuation of that. If you are fighting a war, you see a beautiful woman, and it has desire unto her, that you would have her to wife, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails, cut her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in your house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. Now, anyone knows why it says a full month? Why is it? Is it just mourning only? A month. What happens within a month? A monthly cycle is also what? Seen. What if she was pregnant? You wouldn't know until some time passed. You had to go through a process of time to ensure that she was not, okay? All right. And after you shall go in unto her, and shall be her husband, and she shall be, what does it say? Who made these rules? Okay. Did Moses sit down and write these things up? No, he didn't. It was something that the Most High provided for Israel. And it shall be, if you have no delight in her, then you shall let her go whither she will. Wherever she wants to go, she's released. But you shall not sell her at all for money. You shall not make merchandise of her, because you have what? Humble her. So these are the rules as far as marriage is concerned. Now let's go to Joshua, book of Joshua, and let us read chapter 23, 6 to 13. Okay. Be therefore very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, that you turn not aside therefrom to the right hand or to the left, that you come not among these nations, these that remain among you, not to make mention of the name of their gods, nor cause to swear by them, neither serve them, nor bow yourselves unto them. Verses 8, but cleave unto Yahuwah your Elohim, as you have done unto this day, for Yahuwah have driven out from before you great what? Nations, and strong. But as for you, no man have been able to stand before you unto this day. One man of you shall chase 1,000, for Yahuwah your Elohim, he it is that fighteth for you, as he have promised you. Verses 11, take good heed therefore unto yourselves that you love Yahuwah your Elohim. Else, if you do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you, know for a certainty that Yahuwah your Elohim will no more drive out any of these nations from before you. But they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from off this good land which Yahuwah your Elohim have given you. Is that clear? So we're going through just to see the flow of things and what the Most High allowed and what he didn't allow. So we can be very clear, all right? What he allowed and what he didn't allow. Let's look at the Judges now, the book of Judges. Let's look at some of the consequences of mixing, because he did warn Israelites not to associate. If they go into all these people that remain, you're going to have problems, and I'm not going to drive them out anymore. Judges 14, verses 1 to 4, it reads, we can read, actually, let me see something here. Chapter 1. Judges chapter 1, there's some things in here that I think is important to take a look at, so I don't want to jump to 14 as yet. Judges chapter 1, say again, 1 and 21. Okay. All right. Yeah, we can do that. Let's go to 21 and 21. Now, there's a lot of other stuff in there, so I'm just going to pick a few things out of it for time's sake. Judges chapter 1, verses 21. Let's skip on down to 21 for the sake of time. And the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites that inhabited Jerusalem, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem unto this day. Was there something you want to say?
Yes, because you were talking about that there will be thing in the eyes and so forth, and that there will be pricks in the eyes and the snares and so. And if you remember when the man came down with his wife, it was these same Jebusites, what do they call them there? Jebusites, that the Benjamites was living among. If you look about Judges 19:11, you will see it was those same people that live among them that caused all of them almost to perish off the earth.
Save that for after 14. We'll go to that.
Yeah.
Let me go to chapter 2 real quick, and we'll pick it up at verses 19. 2 and 19, and we'll make a quick point here. So when Joshua was dead, a lot of different things start to happen. Okay, you can read the whole chapter 1 into chapter 2, but I'm trying to pick up some speed here. So let me see, verses 19. It says, and it came to pass when the judge was dead, that they returned and corrupted themselves more than their fathers in following other gods to serve them and to bow down unto them. They cease not from their own doings, nor from their stubborn way. And the rest of it says that the people of Israel did what was right in their own sights. Verses 21, I also not henceforth drive out any from before them of the nations which Joshua left when he died. See? That through them I may prove Israel, whether they will keep the way of Yahuwah to walk therein, as their fathers did, keep it or not. So those nations that were supposed to be easily removed stayed behind to become a testing ground for Israelites. Okay, to continue to prove us, as we are today in this captivity. All right, so let's go back into 14, Judges 14, 1 to 4. Hopefully everyone can see it, and it's not being scrambled eggs on the screen, okay? And Samson went down to Timnah and saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Remember, that was on the list for the Most High to remove, the Canaanites. And he came up and told his father and his mother and says, I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore, get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of your brethren, or among all my people, that you goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she what? Pleaseth me well. The hips and the dips. She pleaseth me well. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of what? Remember, we read before that the Most High allowed these nations to stay to prove them. And all he was doing is using Samson now to destroy them and also to prove Israel. It's two sides of the thing. This is not the Most High saying it was okay for us to go marry Philistine people. Let's not get that twisted, because it can happen very easily in our minds, all right? It was just part of the proven thing. But his father and his mother knew not that it was from Yahuwah, that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time Philistines had dominion over Israel. Now let's look at the kings. 1 Samuel 11 verses 1 to 10. 1 Kings 11, 1 to 10. But King Solomon loved many, what kind of women? Strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. It says strange women together. What does that mean when we see the word together? Along with Egypt, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. So he had foreign women from other places that was not on the list, plus some of those that were on the list that the Most High says don't marry. Okay? Of the nations concerning which Yahuwah said unto the children of Israel, remember the same list? You shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in what? Love. He loved all of them. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with Yahuwah his Elohim, as was the heart of David his father. So it was dealing with these foreign women. That was the issue that the Most High said. Whether it's 1 or 1,000 or whatever, the problem is when the Most High gave us specific instructions to follow, that's what we are supposed to do. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. Okay. Verses 5, and Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Yahuwah and went not fully. So he was half-stepping after Yahuwah, as did David his father. So he wasn't like his father David. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. Now, remember that did David marry any foreign women? He married foreign women? Give me the verse of the foreign women. I forgot Judges 19 that you mentioned. Let's go there real quick. You have it? Let's get it while I can remember. And so get me the whatever verse, chapter verse that David married some foreign women. Judges chapter 19, you said?
Yeah, 11.
11. Okay, so let's read 19:11. It says, and when they were by Jebus, the day was far spent, and the servant said unto the master, come, I pray thee, and let us turn into this city of the Jebusites and lodge in a city. You want me to continue reading? Okay.
The point that I was looking at is to say that the same people that they refused to drive out, among them almost caused them to be wiped out, because they did not, they would get so accustomed and so relaxed with the people that the people actually turned their mind to follow after them.
Is this where the tribe of Benjamin almost got wiped out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So these Canaanite people had a practice which is affiliated with Sodom and Gomorrah to some degree, and the Most High had to have them removed. Okay, so let's go back to 1 Kings. Do you have the chapter and verse for David marrying strange women? Anybody have it in the chat room? Okay. Because sometimes we have a certain name. It's not necessarily meaning that the person is from that country, like Ruth, but it's just the name. Okay. You got something in 1 Samuel? 1 Samuel what? 25 and 43. 25 and 4. Jezreel is normally it means an Israelite. They were all okay. So Israelites. Okay. All right. Let me continue. Verses 8. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burn incense and sacrifice unto their gods. So the wives have a custom among themselves. And what do you think is going to happen to the little children? The same thing. And Yahuwah was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, which had appeared unto him. How many times? Twice. And had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which Yahuwah commanded. So the Most High was not pleased with Solomon's accumulation of all these women, because he knew that these women was going to turn his heart. They have practices and customs. And I'll give you an example. You marry someone from China, and they have a culture, generations after generations. On their holidays, they have dog meat festival, cat food, young, and beef bow wow. And rat with noodles. And so in the blood system, the DNA in the bodies of these people, they have this thing here that has been passed on from generation to the next. So when you have a child with this person, the likelihood of your daughter or son being fed a little piece of beef bow wow is very high, because when you go to visit grandma and your back is turned long enough, they might tell you in Chinese, yeah, eat this, my son, eat this, my son. Eat this, my daughter. And you don't know what they're eating. As a matter of fact, you don't even know that all of the things were offered to Buddha or to some other god or something. You really don't know what's going on. So you have to understand, family, there are reasons why the Most High said what he said, okay? Let's see. I am not aware of any passage which says Melech David married any non-Israelite women. I am not aware of it either, but if someone can prove that, they'll have to dig and dig and dig, because sometimes, as I said, it may say a Carmelitish woman, doesn't mean to say she's a foreigner. It can be a reference to where she lived, okay? All right, let's move on. 1 Kings 16, 30 to 32. As a point of reference, do you know that the word Jezebel also means Isabella? You have heard of King Ferdinand and Isabella? Isabella is also a modern word for Jezebel. So any Hebrews naming a child, their daughter Isabella, you just name your child Jezebel. Okay, you can look it up. It says, verse 30, and Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of Yahuwah above all that were before him. And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians. Remember the Zidonians that the Most High says to wipe out? And went and served Baal and worshipped him. And he raised up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. So the kings were doing things that were contrary to the Most High. They started to marry with these people, and the women started to give advice. The spirits came in. Not to say that we didn't have problems with Hebrew women or Hebrew marriages, but the Most High specifically said, don't marry certain peoples for a reason, okay? And that's within the region of Israel. You cannot marry from within this near region, but if you have to take a daughter through war, a woman through war, it has to be from one of those that are really far off, okay? That's the rules of the Most High. I didn't make those rules. 1 Chronicles 2, 15 to 17. Ozem the sixth, David the seventh, whose sisters were Zeruiah and Abigail, and the sons of Zeruiah, Abishai, Joab, Ashiel 3. And Abigail bare Amasa, and the father of Amasa was Jether the Ishmaelite. You all see that? The father of Amasa. So you had these women that were born, and they married an Ishmaelite. All right? Okay. Now, First Chronicles 2:34-35. Now Sheshan had no sons, but daughters. And Sheshan had a servant, an Egyptian, whose name was Jarha, 35. And Sheshan gave his daughter to Jarha, his servant, to wife, and she bare him Attai. This is giving us a little account of some of the things that happened amongst Israel. It wasn't something that was popular, but it did occur. So this woman married an Ishmaelite, and then you have a man who had no sons, and he took the Egyptian servant that he had and gave his servant to his daughter to bring forth children. And you'll see within that history, there was some stuff that continued on for some time. But again, you have from Ham, which is the Egyptians, outside of the list that the Mosai said to destroy. Mosai didn't say to wipe out the Egyptians. He didn't say that. He said to wipe out these Canaanite people. Is that true? Okay, but it was okay if you wanted to marry someone from another nation, it had to be from outside, okay, from far. But that was only through what? War. It had not been with another man. Because some Hebrew may be thinking, let me go marry someone, but it's not through war. And it's not a young person who you can rear up or can be reared up and be instructed in the way of the Most High. It will be just a woman who has been with a man before and all these different things. So there are specific rules that the Most High set that has to be followed. If you don't follow it accordingly, you're going to have problems. Because then you can go back to the Most High and says, well, Abba, you said that it was okay not to marry this one, but okay to marry this one. I followed all the rules. What should I do now? Then he will give you an answer for that. I've had a lot of problems. You can have problems within or without Israel. Okay. All right, let's move on. So we're just looking at the histories. Now let's look at Tobit. Book of Tobit, chapter 1, verses 1-3. We're just laying down a few things about Tobit for those who don't know. It's found in the Apocrypha. And Tobit was from the dispersion of the northern kingdom into Assyria. Let's read. The book of Tobit, the book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobiel, son of Aniel, the son of Aduel, the son of Gabiel, of the seed of Asel, of the tribe of Naphtali, who in the time of Manasseh, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of Tisbe, which is at the right hand of that city, which is called properly Naphtali in Galilee above Asher. I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the ways of truth and justice, and I did many alms deeds to my brethren and to my nation. I hope this is not scrambled eggs anymore, family, who came with me to Nineveh into the land of the Assyrians. Verses 9. Furthermore, when I was come to the age of a man, so when I came to an adult age, I married Anna of who? My own kindred. Keep that in mind. So now we are looking at an example of a man who was in captivity. And his choice was to marry of his own nation, my own kindred. And of her I begat Tobias. All right, so you got Tobiel, Tobit, and Tobias. Tobiel was Tobit's father, and then he had a son, and he called his name Tobias. All right. This is interesting. Let's chapter 4, verses 12. This is what Tobit said to his son Tobias. Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of your fathers. And take not a strange woman to wife, which is of your father's tribe. For we are the children of the what? Of who? The prophets. It says, chiefly take a wife of the seed of your fathers, and take not a strange woman A strange woman, basically, from Torah perspective, is a woman outside of the Torah that the Most High said you should not marry. Okay? Which is not of your father's tribe, for we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred. Is that correct? It depends. Did all the fathers marry of their own kindred? We saw examples of Joseph marrying a different woman, right? We saw Abraham having Hagar, which is a different woman. We also seen other examples. Judah, is that correct? Okay, we've seen this. But the point that he was making here is to understand what the Most High laid down to the fathers as law. Okay, it's not like you're running away and you're in a foreign country and you have no Hebrews that you can marry to, no one of your family tree that you can marry to, or you were given a bride like Joseph was given a bride, or to raise up seed because of the laws, the Eastern laws of surrogate mothers, like in case of Abraham and Hagar. All right, so we have to understand things in context. And we're blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Now, therefore, my son, love your brethren, and despise not in your heart your brethren, the sons and daughters of your people, in not taking a wife of them. Because what happens is that when we are in captivity, we start to despise our people. Now, of course, whether it's male or female, there's a lot of craziness. There may be a male in your neighborhood that's a thug, a gangster, or there may be a female that is a hood rat, a crazy sister that's all loud speaking all over the place, not humble in spirit, bossy, very masculinated. You might find all these kinds of traits, and so you may say, I won't marry my people because they're crazy. So you look outside and you decide to go marry someone from another nation. All right. So he's advising his son to don't be of that mindset. And in lewdness is decay. I'm sorry, let me go back again. In not taking a wife of them, for in pride is destruction and much trouble. And in lewdness is decay and great want. For lewdness is the mother of famine. Let's move on. Let's see how Esther, we're going to look at the additions to Esther and how she dealt with marriage situation. Because remember, Esther was one of the children of the captivity. And in her particular case, it was completely different. And let's see what she said as a record, how she felt with regards to being married to the king who was of a different peoples, okay? Chapter 14, I'm going to read from verses 1 to 10. Brother, you want to help me out?
Queen Esther also, being in fear of death, resorted unto Yahuwah, and laid away her glorious apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning. And instead of precious ointments, she covered her head with ashes and dung. And she humbled her body greatly, and all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair.
She cut her hair, pulled her hair out. Okay, read.
And she prayed unto Yahuwah of Israel, saying, O my Elohim, thou only art our king. Help me, desolate woman, which have no helper but thee.
She's making a very important, actually a prophetical statement. You are our king. You only are our king. Book of Jubilees speaks about that. Also, at this time, there was no more kings in Israel. Okay, so everything was passed back to heaven. Okay, the rulership. All right, read on.
For my danger is in my hand. From my youth up I have heard in the tribe of my family that thou, O Yahuwah, tookest Israel from among all people, and our fathers from all their predecessors for a perpetual inheritance.
So she acknowledged before the Most High. She's not lying and asking for things, praying amiss like some of us do. she's praying specifically within the confines of the Torah. I have heard in my tribe of my family that you, O Yua, took Israel from among all people. If you're taking somebody out to be a separate people, don't expect that people to go back to those other people and be married, right? But we see how with Abraham, in this particular case, because he didn't have a multitude of people or choices, he had to go back to that particular family tree and marry, because remember, from his point with the covenant, from that seed line became a nation, or the beginnings of a nation of Israel. But before that, he had to send his servant to get from his kindred a wife. Okay? So we're looking at the transition. The transition when there's an availability of Hebrew women that you can marry, or husbands that you can marry to. Okay? So a perpetual inheritance. Perpetual means without end. Is that correct? Let's move on. And
thou hast performed whatsoever thou didst promise them.
Verse 6.
And now we have sinned before thee. Therefore hast thou given us into the hands of our enemies.
Now this is what we need to really focus on. We see allowances by the Most High if peradventure you go to war, and it's not something Hebrews go like today. Hey, and you know what? I'm going to go to war because I like those women up in that other nation over there. I've heard. So let's just go start a war so we can get married. No, that didn't happen. The Most High was the one who sent them out to war, and if he wasn't for that war, they wouldn't win. Is that correct? So when they won, then he would give them allowance accordingly to his will. If they were on a chopping block, sorry, everybody had to die. If they were not, and they won the victory, then he would allow them if they wanted to or not. Okay, those were the provisions given to him. Now, so when we sin against the Most High, he left certain peoples to be around us, to be snares and to entangle us. Let's read verses 7.
Because we worship their gods, O Elohim, thou art righteous. Nevertheless, it satisfied them not that we are in bitter captivity, but they have stricken hands with their idols, that they will abolish the thing that thou with thy mouth hast ordained, and destroyed thine inheritance, and stop the mouth of them that praise thee, and quench the glory of thy house and of thine altar, and open the mouths of the heathen to set forth the praises of the idols, and to magnify a fleshly king forever.
All right, so let's look at this carefully. So what she's saying is that because our people were so stiff-necked and followed after the idols, it caused a quenching of those righteous people who wanted to give glory to the Most High, and pride to be raised up into the other nations. And now we are in trouble because of that. The roles were switched. We were supposed to stop the mouths of these heathens and give praise to the Most High. Instead, we did the opposite, and here we are today. Okay, let's read verses 14 to 16. But
deliver us with thine hand, and help me that I am desolate, and which have no other help but thee. Thou knowest all things.
You know all things.
O Yahuwah. Thou knowest that I hate the glory of the unrighteous, and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised, and of all the heathen.
Let's stop. Sister Esther is saying here, listen, this marriage was a marriage of necessity. Just as Joseph's marriage was a marriage of necessity at the time, so was Esther. Now, the difference is that we find is that Joseph's wife, if you read the writings of Joseph and what's her name again? Asenath, I think her name is. Okay. She had respect unto the Most High greatly because Joseph was her head. Okay. In this case, Esther's husband still had the same heathen ideology of foreign gods and whatnot. Even though he acknowledged Esther as being a Hebress, he still continued to please his culture. And Esther hated, she says, I abhor the bed of the uncircumcised. She wasn't in different beds. She was only in one bed. She was a virgin, and she was kept that way until she married to this other nation. Is that correct? And she's saying in her speech, I wasn't pleased with this relationship. Keep that in mind. Okay? And I wasn't looking for this opportunity to become some queen or have all this wealth and prestige and whatnot, as some of our sisters do. There's a lot of our sisters who marry because they have access to money, access to what? Clothing, money, whatever, prestige, and a whole bunch of other things that comes with it. But Esther didn't have that mindset. Let's continue on, verse 16.
Thou knowest my necessity.
My what?
Necessity.
Go ahead.
For I abhor the sign of my high estate, which is upon my head in the days wherein I show myself, and that I abhor it as a menstruous rag.
As a what?
A menstruous rag.
Menstruous rag. So she tossed it away. Go ahead.
And that I wear it not when I am private by myself.
So when I'm by myself, I take off all of these Babylonish Persian garments off of me. I serve my role politically as a queen, but when I'm in my private place, because the king, remember we read with Vashti, it was once in a while they get together and so forth. They remember and they get together with their wife and whatnot. And so she used all that opportunity to get away from this guy. When she's by herself, take all the stuff off. I'm back in my Hebrew wear, whatever it is, okay? Now let's move on. I'm going to pick up some speed. So I'm going to read, and I'll read as fast as I can so we can want to cover Ezra now. Ezra, the prophet Ezra. I hope that's what he looks like. Ezra. Ezra chapter 2, we're going to read verses 43 real quick. Nethinims, the children of Ziah, the children of Haspuah, the children of Tabor. Now, why did I put this here? These people are the people that when you read, when Joshua had the list, remember, there was a list that Joshua had to wipe out. And these people came from they claimed to come from a far country. And the princes made a deal with them. The Bible says that they were cursed to serve as carriers of wood and drawers of water for the Most High's temple forever. They were servants. These people kept the promise. And remember, Saul had tried to wipe these people out. And the Most High wasn't pleased, and it was a plague. And David went in and he repaired the breach, because the Most High honors what we also come into covenant with. We didn't go to the Most High and ask him, should we come and make a contract? Because the Most High already gave us the rules. Nevertheless, he still honored Israel regardless. And these people kept their part of the relationship. They didn't own any land of Mount Israel. They stayed in tents. They served and they did what they were supposed to do, and they were correct. The Most High spared them because of that reason. So they are here among the captive children of Israel. And they are now returned back to the land to serve among those returning Hebrews. And this is what it says, chapter 2, verses 58. And all the Nethinims and the children of Solomon's servants were 392. And these were they which went up from Tel Melah, Tel Harsa, Cherub, Adan, and Emer. But they could not show their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. And the children of Delia, the children of Tobiah, the children of Nekoda, 652, and of the children of the priest, the children of Habiah, children of Koz, the children of Barzillai, which took a wife of the daughters of Barzillai, Gileadite, trying to get these words right, and was called after their name. These sought their register among those that were reckoned by genealogy, but they were not found. Therefore were they as polluted, but from the priesthood. So they were marked as what? Polluted because of the marriages, because they couldn't really nail it down. But the reason why these people could not participate was because there's a strict law with regards to the priesthood. Let me finish reading this and then I'll make my point. And Tirshatha said unto them that they should not eat of the most holy things till they stood up a priest with the Urim and the Thummim. So we had the things that the Most High gave to the high priest to see what is right from what is wrong. All right. You had some men who claiming to be of the priest lineage, but couldn't prove themselves to be so. The Most High gave strict rules. Ezra wanted to do everything correctly. So they had to set those men aside until they can prove otherwise. You said you're from this family, but we can't prove it. So we are going to wait until we have these things and then prove it. Otherwise, I'm sorry, we can't use you. A lot of times our brothers would use this passage and say, get rid of the women. As a matter of fact, let me go to that. Let's get right to it. Get rid of the women and so forth that you're married to. It is partly true. Partly true. However, the Bible is letting us know that it was specifically, the emphasis was placed upon those who have to serve in the priesthood. Let's read. Ezra 9 and verses 1 to verses 4. Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel, the priests and who? The Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abomination, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, Jebusites, Ammonites, Moab, Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed, that's the Levites, have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers that have been chief in this trespass. So you have these men who are supposed to teach the Torah, men who are supposed to lead, who have married the nations the Most High said they're not supposed to marry. And remember that Aaron was given specific rules that of the tribe of Levi, they're supposed to have their sons serve, right? Or marry daughters and have their sons serve. Remember that Moses' wife was a Midianite, but Aaron's wife was from Levi. So their offspring was utilized to do certain roles for the temple, okay? And when they heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle and plucked off the hair of my head and of my beard and sat down astounded. Ezra 9 verses 1 to 4. Let me see, make sure it's the right thing. Verses 4. And they assemble unto me everyone that tremble at the word of Yahuwah, and Elohim of Israel, because of the transgression of those that had been carried away. And I sat astonished until the evening sacrifice. So here you have Ezra trying to resolve this issue. Let's pick it up at verses 10 to verses 12. And now, O Elohim, our Elohim, what shall we say after this? How should we settle this problem? For we have forsaken your commandments. I'm here to do the right thing, but I'm finding myself between a rock and a hard place. These men are married and have children. How should I deal with the situation? Remember that he's trying to set up the temple again. You have priests who are not able to account for certain marriages and things like that. Which you have commanded, verses 11, by your servants the prophets, saying, the land unto which you go to possess it, Canaan, is an unclean land, with the filthiness of the people, sodomite lifestyle, everything else, idolatry of the lands, with their abomination, which have filled it from one end to another with their uncleanliness. Keep that in mind, family. Because even though the Most High gave us provision and say from a far country, if you war with them, you can marry. China's a very, very far country. But the Chinese themselves, do they have abominations against the Most High? Yes. You go to Europe, the pagans over there, the heathens, do they practice these things? Do they have a certain culture? Yes, they do. So we have to be able to apply what the Most High wants for Israel and apply those things accordingly. The land which you go to possess it is an unclean land with the filthiness of the people of the land, with their abominations which have filled it from one end to another with their uncleanness. Now therefore give not your daughters to their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons, nor seek their peace or their wealth forever, that you may be strong and eat the good of the land, and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever. We all see that? Okay. So now chapter 10, verses 1 to 5 says, Now when Ezra had prayed, and when he had confessed, weeping and casting himself down before the house of Elohim, there assembled unto him out of Israel a very great congregation of men and women and children, for the people wept very sore. Shechaniah the son of Jehiel, one of the sons of Elam, answered and said unto Ezra, We have trespassed against our Elohim, and have taken strange wives of the people of the land. Yet now there is hope in Israel concerning this thing. Now therefore let us make a covenant with our Elohim to put away all the wives, and such as are born of them, according to the counsel of my Lord, and of those that tremble at the commandment of you, Elohim, and let it be done according to the law. Arise, for this matter belongeth unto you. We also will be with you. Be of good courage and do it. So they all came together, try to make a decision. Then arose Ezra, verses 5, and made the chief priests, the Levites, and all Israel to what? Swear. Remember, the emphasis is upon who? The Levites. Keep that in mind. Again, many of the Hebrew Israelites today is throwing everything out, but they simply don't understand the protocols. Okay, they want to do a complete purge. To swear that they should do according to what? This word, and they swear. Chapter 10, verses 9 to 44. Let me see if we can read all of that. Okay. Verses 9. Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. It was the 9th month and the 20th day of the month, and all the people sat in the street of the house of Elohim, trembling because of this matter and for the great rain. And Ezra the priest stood and said unto them, You have transgressed and have taken strange wives. So this is also to who? Judah and Benjamin, to increase the trespass of Israel. Verses 11. Now therefore make confession unto Elohim, Yahuwah Elohim, of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land, from the strange wives. Then all the congregation answered and said with a loud voice, As thou hast said, so must we do. But the people are many. It is a time of much rain, and we are not able to stand outside or without. Neither is this a work of 1 day or 2, for we are many and have transgressed in this thing. So, large population, we have to take some time with this matter. Verse 14. Let now our rulers of all the congregation stand, and let all them which have taken strange wives in our cities come at the appointed times, with them the elders of every city and the judges thereof, until the fierce wrath of our Elohim for this matter be turned from us. So now they have to make a move like Abraham, send out the bondwoman with the children. Verses 15, only Jonathan the son of Ashiel, Josiah the son of Tikva were employed about this matter, and Meshullam and Shabbatai the Levite helped them, and the children of the captivity did so. And Ezra the priest, and with certain of the chief of the fathers after the house of their fathers, and all of them by their names were separated and sat down in the first of the 10th month to examine the matter. Verses 17. And they made an end with all the men that had taken strange wives by the first day of the first month. And among the sons of the priests, there were found that had taken strange wives, namely of the sons of Joshua, the son of Jozadak, and his brethren, Maaseiah, Eleazar, Jarib, and Jedaliah. 19. And they gave their hands that they would put away their wives, being guilty, they offered a ram of the flock of their trespass. So I'm not going to read all of these, but it says in verse 23, also the Levites who did this, of the singers, moreover of Israel, these are the sons who were accounted that needed to take some action. It continues to verse 31 with more of the sons of Israel who had to take action. all the way down to verses 40 and 2. Let's move on. Ezra 10:43-44 continues. I'll read 44. All these had taken strange wives, and some of them had wives by whom they had children. Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 1-3, about the same time on accord. On that day they read the book in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonites and the Moabites should not come into the congregation of Elohim for what? Ever. Because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing. Verses 3, and now it came to pass when they had heard the law that they separated from Israel, what? All the mixed multitude. Now remember, these people are returned back to where? Israel. And what are they doing? Separating. Verses 23. In those days also I saw Jews that had married wives of Ashdod. Ashdod was on a chopping block. Ammon and of Moab. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. So they spoke everybody else's language, but were not raised properly to speak the proper Hebrew according to the fathers. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by Elohim, saying, you shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. See? So if you have children, you have family, don't give your people out, nor take any unto yourself for your wives, right? Verse 26, did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by all these things? Yet among many nations there was no king like him, who was beloved of his Elohim. And Elohim made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even after all that, even him did outlandish women out of the land. Women out of the land caused to what? Sin. So those men are being rebuked about what they did was wrong, and it caused problems in Israel. And after a while, we're going to start losing our language, our culture be lost. There'll be a decay. This is why Tobit says that, not taking a wife of your people. For in pride is destruction and much trouble. In lewdness is what? Decay. That's the word I'm looking for, decay. So after a while, when we reject our women and we go into other women, we're decaying. And then there'll be a great want, because there's a famine. There's a famine for the true seed, and now we have a overplus of foreign peoples amongst us, and now we have problems. Okay, 27. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our Elohim in marrying strange wives? And one of the sons of Jediah, the son of Eliashib, the high priest, was son-in-law to Sanballat the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me. Remember them, O my Elohim, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and of the Levites. Thus cleanse I them from all strangers, and appointed the wards of the priests and the Levites, everyone in his business. I had to oversee and make sure I check the family tree and before I appoint them responsibilities. And for the wood offering at times appointed, and for the first fruits, remember me, O Elohim, for good. So now we have the people who were designated to carry the wood and the water and so forth. He checked them out, and he was able to appoint them back to the positions. He had to sift out and also put them with that respect. Okay. So what's on your mind? You want to say something?
I just have two questions, really. When you read Ezekiel 16, when Yeshua was talking about Israel, there are two things that he said there, that your mother was an Ammonite and your father was a Hittite. Those two names. What do you think he's saying as far as that goes? And does that mean that they were of these particular people that were nearby? And also, now that we are in diaspora and we don't know who's Levi from who's not Levi, how do you make that separation to put away? So since Ezra is the high priest who's acting the role of the Messiah, would it not be the Messiah to decide who's who is who, and who's married to who, and who should put away who?
Okay. All right. Your question is clear. Let me deal with this first one. Now, this is a parable basically about Jerusalem, the land, not the people. In past time, the occupants of the land named the land accordingly. You had the Hivites. Let me go back over here. So you had these people who were these territories that were supposed to be taken over by Israel. So he's making a connection of how the land itself of Israel was named after these heathen. And just as the heathen themselves were doing idolatry and the land was named after them, Israelites themselves, physical Israelites themselves, were also copying, and he was making this connection that they were even regarded as these people. But he's not saying that Israel was birthed from Amorite and the Hittite. It's just making a reference to the location itself. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now, as far as the other question, that's a good question with regards to how do we know in this diaspora who's Levite? Because you have brothers who are saying, well, this people over here from Levi and such like, whereas we are basically to the point of no remembrance of a lot of things. And I also want to go to Jubilees to point out a few things too. We don't know 100%. We do have some very small fragments, but we don't know 100%. We do have the curses, but the curses also apply to Levi. So you really don't know who is Levi to a large degree. There are some amongst Israel who, let's use Africa for example, some practices that the people do that are Levitical, but remember also Benjamites were doing a lot of things that were Levitical too during the time of the Grecian Empire, and even in the Roman Empire, people bought certain things, bought the priesthood. We had a knowledge of the practices of the priesthood, so we really don't know 100% for sure. We do have Deuteronomy 28 that gives us an understanding. Now, let me just go into what if we are already married to these people? Should we put away these women because, or divorce because they are of another nation? This is a question that has been scratching at the heads of many Hebrews. I'll put it this way. If you have someone who is keeping the Most High's commandments, I'll give you an example. What about Uriah? Well, some say he wasn't a Hittite, but some will say that he was a Hittite. Let's go all the way back to the time of the wilderness journey. The woman who was married to an Egyptian man, when she came into the knowledge of the Torah, did she walk away from her husband? It doesn't say anything. We can just guess at this point. But the point of the matter is that if the husband was keeping the Torah, the children also would be in line with the Torah, right? If the wife is the wife is a Hebrew and she's not keeping the Torah and she wants to eat swine and so forth, what do you do with her? If you have two Hebrews that are married and the wife wants to bring in all kinds of various lifestyles and culture that is an abomination to the Most High, what do you do with this wife? Do you stay married with her, or do you separate yourself from her? That's the question. Well, as you said, unequally yoked. What do you do in that instance? So if the rules apply, you would divorce her, put her away because she's an abomination to the Most High. Do you think that the rules would apply if the person is of another nation that you, before you know the Torah? I'm not talking about, and let me just be clear, we're talking about relationships where you are Hebrew or Hebress, we can use that term, and the husband is not. He's from a different nation. the husband is or the wife is keeping the Torah, should you put that person away? No, you're not supposed to put that person away if they're keeping the Torah. If the person is not keeping the Torah, that's when you can separate yourself. Now, here's the other thing. If you are about to get married, you shouldn't be marrying these other nations. You should be choosing from your own nation. If you are already married and they're keeping the Torah and they're going to be fearing the Most High, trembling at the Most High, and so forth, let the Most High be the one to remove that person if they're keeping the Torah. Y'all understand what I'm saying? We have an example of Judah marrying a Canaanite woman, and offspring was killed and so forth, and then later on, that whole relationship went south. Okay? I saw a hand. I'm not sure who it was. Yes.
I think we have something in 1 Corinthians 7:11-19.
Let's go there real quick, and then I'll take a look at the chat room, see what's going on. Brother Pincus, read for me, please.
And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yahuwah, let not the wife depart from her husband, and if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not Elohim. If any brother had a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which had an husband that believeth not, and if he please to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but Yahuwah had called us to peace. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? Or how knowest thou, O man, whether thou shalt save thy wife? But as Elohim had distributed to every man, as Elohim had called everyone, so let him walk. And so ordain I in all the congregation.
So we find this issue being a huge issue in diaspora. There will be what you call mixed marriages, interracial marriages. First of all, well, Tobit, I think it's Tobit. Is it Tobit that mentions about the race? I can't remember offhand. Marry someone of your own race. And Sirach mentions that also. I forgot exactly. There's a lot of things that I am not able to put because, as you can see, it's kind of lengthy. But I wanted to kind of give us a start to really look at. So let's look at this again. Being amongst these nations, first and foremost, we are the children of captivity. And many of us are now learning or trying to understand the Torah and how to live in righteousness. There will be those of the other nations. Remember I said there's a certain list that the Most High said must be destroyed forever. And then there are those from other countries that he allowed for the men to take wives of those nations if there's a war, okay, that is sanctioned by him. We are not at war, but we are prisoners of war. And we are not only prisoners physically, but mentally speaking, where most of what we know has been taught to us by other nations. So we've always had this mindset that we should be mingled with everybody else or married with everybody else. And the problem is that we have already come into contracts. We already established our lives and the relationships are going well. There's no problems. There's no issue whatsoever. They're dwelling in peace. And here comes the truth letting you know that you should not be in this relationship, and it bothers you. What do you do? Well, one of the things that I will tell you to give you ease is that remember that the Most High, is the job of the Messiah to separate the sheep from the goats. There are even people who look like you and I that will be the direct descendants of another nation, and they will not be of Israel. And they in their mind may be bragging about, well, I'm a Hebrew. And when the time comes that the true shepherd shows up to make the division, they'll find out that they're not even Hebrew. We boast a lot in the flesh, and we don't understand there are many things on a different level. So let's go back to the curses. The curses is one way that we can know, but the Ruach is another way that also reveals a lot of things. You're in a relationship with someone, you don't have any problems with them whatsoever, and they're serving the Most High in righteousness, you are supposed to remain in that marriage. But if that person is not committing themselves to the Most High, and they are an abomination, then you are supposed to separate yourself from them. So the rules that have been pushed on many of our people that we read in Ezra and Nehemiah was mainly emphasized upon the priests. Yes, there were Judah and Benjamin who were leaders of the community that had the same problem, but the emphasis was on the priesthood, because how can you deal with the sins of the people and you're defiled? We have a major problem. And notice also the leader says this is something that's going to take some time. It's not something we can do overnight. We have to do this thing case by case. We have to find out for sure what's going on. It doesn't mean all the women, the children of those women, could not speak Hebrew. They were not taught. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Joseph was in a situation pretty much similar to our diaspora right now, whereas he took a wife because of circumstance, or was given one because of circumstance. And his wife, if you read Asenath and Joseph, you'll see how she feared the Most High. And she says, I'm going to do everything of my husband. I'm going to do all that's supposed to be done. Is that correct? Okay. All right. So, that is what we need to keep in mind, family. The same brothers who are very strict with what they're saying, there are no understanding given behind the different scenarios, because you have some sides that are very loose and very liberal, and people want to marry because, no, we are prohibiting going into marriages of other nations. We're prohibiting that. But if you are already married to someone of another nation, and that person fears the Most High with all their heart, soul, and mind, you have the right to go before the Most High and ask him, Father, take this man from me. If he's to be taken from me, you are the one to strike him dead so you can be free. But if the man or the wife is keeping the Torah, you are obligated to remain in that relationship. A lot of the brothers are preaching to destroy the marriages, and guess what? Those brothers are not around to pay child support. They're not around to be a covering over your head, and you are at the mercies of all kinds of wayward Hebrews, and you have a lot of problems, and your life is destroyed. You have other seed of men in you, or you are going out into other types of relationships that is not right, and your whole life is destroyed just because of that. This is not the way of the Most High. This is not the way of the Most High at all. Okay? Even when Abraham sent Ishmael and his mother out, remember that Abraham still visited his son at least every year or so often. Still went and checked his son out. And Ishmael showed up at Abraham's funeral. Okay? And Ishmael met with Isaac from time to time and had conversations. It wasn't this kind of a fierce thing. Well, you're Arab, sand monkeys, and all kind of crazy derogatory terms. We're not supposed to be like that, family. We're not supposed to be like that. Our condition is because of our own sin. Are we going to make it worse? Again, let me say it just in case someone walked away to the bathroom and came back. If you are looking to go into a marriage with another nation, that is prohibited. And when I say prohibited, I mean, you know full well, you checked everything out, you see this guy's or this woman's generation has been that of a heathen, You are prohibited. If you are engaged, it's time for you to break this. Okay? But if you are already married and that person is not keeping the commandments, you are allowed to leave that relationship. If they're not keeping the Most High's commandments, if that person is keeping the Most High's commandments, fearing the Most High, taking care of children, they're not looking down on your children, and they're not allowing those children to be raised as a heathen. Listen carefully. It's all about the Torah. Honoring a husband, respecting the wife, all that stuff is done in righteousness. You are supposed to stay in that marriage. Okay? Brother Pincus.
Just a question. We know that the Most High have a list. Today, we don't use those names. So, is there I guess a list that basically that we can reference as to
prove these nations
what the names are today versus what we're seeing in the Bible? Because we know there is no American in the Bible, but we use Chittim as one of the names of the progenitors of the Europeans and stuff like that.
Good question, because that's where there'll be great difficulty for people to really understand. We don't have too much history. You have different authors that have recorded certain transitions from one nation to a different name, like it was called Mizraim, now it's called Egypt. It was called Medes and Persia, now it's called Iran and so forth. So you have these transitions of names, and you also have border changes. Like Ethiopia was not the Ethiopia that we know today. We didn't have Eritrea. Ethiopia was all those different places. And even within Ethiopia, all the people are not the same people. You have a whole bunch of different tribes and kindreds within Ethiopia itself. There are a lot of Hebrews in Ethiopia. You have Hebrews in Yemen. You have Hebrews in Somalia. You have Hebrews in all the different parts of Africa, whether it's the north or the south. You have Hebrews in Asia. You have Hebrews in all over the world. That's what the scripture said. And if you come in contact with people who says, we know for generations we are Hebrews, but we look this way or whatever it is, you can marry those people. But if there are people who trace the tradition to St. Patrick, and you want to kiss the Blarney Stone family, that's not allowed. Okay, you got to stay away from that. Or if you're going to be doing those Russian dance where you're almost on your knees jumping up and down, and somebody's giving you a gift with multiple types of eggs in it, that's not the people you should get married to. Or if you go to Africa and they want to put mud in your hair and wrap it up and cover your skin in red and tell you to rub doo-doo all over you, cow doo-doo, or cut the animal and drink blood, mix it with milk, that's not your people you should get married to. But there will be people in Africa that are apart from those people that, yeah, you can marry to. If you go to South America in the bush somewhere and you see certain peoples, not everybody in South America are Hebrews. Let's not get that mixed up either. There are a lot of histories that we can see clearly, and there's some things that is just too hazy, foggy, and we don't want to make the mistake of just speaking just for speaking's sake. Because remember, the Ruach HaKodesh is the final say of all this. The Messiah is going to separate. He has to purge. He has to bring us into the wilderness again and purge us and get us right. Okay? So there's a lot of things that are still undone. But brothers and sisters, we can't be fools either. We have to understand what the Bible is saying. The provisions that are given, the conditions which certain marriages took place, all of that has to be taken. But if you go out and says, well, I'm going to make myself a prisoner so I can be forced into a marriage to certain people, then you are provoking the name of the Most High. If you want to start a war so you can get a bride, you're provoking the Most High. That is wickedness. And if you're making excuses, that is also wickedness. So let us not look at and pick and choose examples and say, I'm going to go do this. The rules of the book is very clear. The Torah makes it clear. Marry among your people. Marry among your people. Okay, but if there are people amongst us that are You're already married to certain nations, and they're keeping the Torah. Let it be. Don't provoke them. Don't start any problems. All right. So with that said, we'll take a couple of verses and then we're going to say shalom. We can always have a part 2 if necessary. And I hope, is there any Hebrews here that this was a problem that you had to scratch your head? Okay, Brother Iran has his hand raised. Let's see, Brother Iran, let me let you speak for a moment. All the way from Trinidad. Shalom, brother. How are you?
Shalom, Mr. Khan. Shalom. This was an issue for a few of the people who were speaking to me, and they were asking questions about this because in Trinidad we have a very mixed society, predominantly East Indians and Hebrews or blacks, right? And for the majority of us, even through slavery, I mean, a lot of us are mixed, and this has been an issue for some of the people who spoke to me and was asking. So this is why this was something that I this was really important for me.
Okay. So yes, Trinidad and many other places in the Caribbean do have different mixtures and whatnot. That's another class we can go into another time as far as that mixture is concerned. So let me see who else. I think that's it. Okay. Let's read the book of Jubilees. We got a couple more and then we're going to say shalom. Jubilees chapter 1. I want to read verses 9. It says, many will perish and they will be taken captive and will fall into the hands of the enemy because they have forsaken my ordinances and my commandments and the festivals of my covenant, my Shabbats, and my holy place which I have hallowed for myself in their midst, and my tabernacle and my sanctuary which I have hallowed for myself in the midst of the land, that I should set my name upon it and that they should dwell there. So it's saying that how we will forsake the Most High's commandments, which we already covered, and then we will be, verses 12 says, we'll be scattered among the Gentiles as what? Captives. As captives, okay? So once we are among these Gentiles as captives, family, we will find ourselves practicing marriages like the Gentiles, okay? And if we're returning back to the covenant of the Most High, and you say to your husband or to your wife, I'm a Hebrew, this is what the Torah says, I have to make a decision for my life. And I want to serve the Most High with all my heart, soul, and mind. And the husband says, no way in hell. I love my ham, you're going to cook the ham for me. I love my shrimps, you're going to cook it for me. Scrimps. I love my traditions. I love my Szechuan rat and so forth. My frog meat. My escargots. I like all that stuff. And I'm sorry, but you're my wife and there's no divorce. I'm not going to keep the Most High. Then you're going to say, all right. Shalom Aleichem. Peace out. Goodbye. Okay? You have to move on, family. You might have little ones and you have to say, okay, they're going to come with me or they're going to go with you. If you can teach your little ones in the right way, then so be it. If not, let the little ones go and start your life afresh. You have to make a decision because the Most High will not allow certain things in his kingdom. It's just the bottom line. But if the husband says, you know what, you're right. I've looked into it. You're absolutely right. And don't be so quick to expect, husband, make a choice today because by sunset, I'll be gone. Now, come on now. If you have that attitude with your husband, don't think a Hebrew is going to pick you up. Because no Hebrew is going to want to marry someone who puts their foot down and be like a man, mannish in their house. That's a problem in Israel. You got too many mannish women. Handbag like my school teacher, Mrs. Brown. Their fist is fatter than a husband's fist. All right, Kiva, we have to give you the mic shortly, huh? Ruling class women, feet of authority. If you're that kind of a mindset, you're going to find yourself in a lot of problems, okay? This is what's happening in Israel even to this very day. Let me see. One last one, Jubilees 2:19 to 20. If you have that mindset, you're going to have a lot of problems, family. Let's not be that way. All right, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. 2:19 to 20. All right. And he said unto us, behold, I will separate unto myself a people from among all the peoples. And these shall keep the Shabbat day, and I will sanctify them unto myself as my people, and will bless them as I have sanctified the Shabbat day, and do sanctify it for myself. Now, when the Most High made the Shabbat day and hallowed it, this is in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, right? Is that correct? So from that time, as he set apart the Shabbat, he already had a plan, a blueprint to separate us from the sons of Adam, a people for himself. Even so will I bless them, that they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. And I've chosen the seed of Jacob from amongst all that I have seen, and I've written him down, and have what? Written him down as my firstborn son, and have sanctified him unto myself forever. So the life of Jacob and Esau, we know that Esau was the one who came out first, but it was recorded that Jacob was the firstborn, and all the benefits will be given to him. You understand that? And I've sanctified him unto myself forever and ever, and will teach them the Shabbat day, that they may keep the Shabbat thereon from all work. 24 says, and to this Jacob and his seed it was granted that they should always be blessed and holy ones of the first testimony and law, even as they had sanctified and blessed the Shabbat day on the seventh day. Verses 31 says, and final, and the Creator of all things blessed it, but he did not sanctify all peoples and nations to keep the Shabbat thereon, but Israel alone. Them alone he permitted to eat and drink, and to keep Shabbat thereon on the earth. I think I can rest my case on that. I hope that makes sense to all people. Again, family, this is not about racial, who's superior and who's not. This is the Most High's choice. This is not about texture of hair and phenotypes. That's foolishness. Everyone is beautiful in their own way. Whether you're dark to the darkness of midnight, or lightest that you can't even see during the day. If I can use that foolish talk. The purest of white, like some people would say. That is just the way the Most High made it. If a Hebrew is born an albino, there are rules. The Bible says if you are not leprous, you're clean. Your hair is yellow, you're clean. Okay? Let me go over here. Like this sister here, right here. This sister, okay? She may have the blue eyes and whatever it is. She can be a Hebrew, she could not be a Hebrew. You don't know. It's possible. Depends on the father, right? And where the lineage goes all the way back to. Okay. But again, let us deal with in-house. If you're already married to a non-Hebrew, and they're keeping the Most High, and they love the Most, and they're afraid, fear the Most High, let us not depart, okay? Does that help, family? Any more questions in the chat room? Are we good in the chat room? Let's see. Can't force feed. That is correct. It doesn't work. I must separate in the heathen as way of life. As we follow. There is no middle ground. Abiyah, are you saying that if you have Abiyah, I presume that you are son of Yah, right? Ben Israel, yes, you're a son. Abiyah, are you saying that if you are married to a Gentile woman who loves the Most High, all her heart, soul, and mind, serving you well, taking care of the family, that you're going to give her a bill of divorce. Is that what you're saying? And this needs to be clear, okay? Is that what you're saying, Abiyah? Don't be silent now. Let's type as fast as you put that up. Let's see what your mind is. Brother Bill says there's no repentance for Esau. Yeah, there's no repentance for Esau. That is correct. But remember that there's actually a particular tribe or seed within Esau that the Bible says will be wiped out. That's the Amalekites. Amalek, that is correct. And remember that Solomon had many children, some of them from Esau. Remember that David caused Esau to serve for many years. Okay? So how do we reconcile all of that? Brother Abiyahu, not Abiyahu, Abiyah has gone silent. I wonder why. Abiyah ben Israel, I'm waiting for you. Japheth was also pale skin. Well, let's address that carefully. Again, the reason why I didn't want to get into the color and all that stuff is because I don't have the time machine ready as yet. Brother Pincus, we're still working on that. We're still trying to build. As a matter of fact, Brother Yosef in England, I think he's still trying to get the time machine working. And for some reason, it's not working well enough. As far as we can go back is in the history books. And there isn't much history to say. We do understand that people were of one color at some point in time. We all came from the earth, right? But over a period of time, you can get different shades of color from dark, from black. All right. And it goes along the same line as people trying to prove the Hebrew is the right Hebrew. Abadaba, yabadaba, yabadabada. And again, we're trying to get the time machine to go back to hear Moses speak abadaba, yabada. And we don't have it. It's still giving us problems. So when we get that fixed, not only will we be able to travel back, but we can be able to take a couple of you all with you. It's still in prototype. But if any Hebrew would like to test out the time machine, you may not be able to come back, or you may come back in half. Family, listen, there's no science fiction in Israel. If y'all want to practice that, go ahead. But again, let us not be quick to look at a whole lot of things, because I can show you pictures of two jet black blue Hebrews or Africans who bring forth a child that looks white. What do you say about that? So was Japheth white or was he dark? We leave it at that. Was Esau, did he bring the white color complexion into those places? We'll leave it at that. We don't know 100%. Okay, so Brother Eliyahu, let's allow you to say a few words. Shalom, brother.
Hey, shalom. Shalom to all the family. It's really good to be with you.
And make sure you speak up, because there's a little chastisement going on.
Yeah, let me get close. Can I be heard well?
Very well. Go ahead.
Okay, Shabbat shalom to you and all the family from far away this time. I just wanted to, well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I know this has been on a lot of people's minds, so it was excellent timing and excellently done. I just have, I think, one thing to add to the discussion. And this is going back to the passage that Ima had brought to our attention earlier, 1 Corinthians 7. And there's something that Shaul says in here that I think has certain implications for sisters who find themselves married and then having to depart from a Gentile husband. So I'll read verses 10 and 11. And this is Shaul speaking to the Israelites at Corinth. And it says, "And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yah, let not the wife depart from her husband. But and if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife." Now this passage is singling out women here, and it's requiring women, if they depart, to remain unmarried. And of course, the reason why it says so specifically about women is because when it comes to matters of marriage and sex in Torah, men and women are treated differently. That's just the way it is. As you said, brother, we are the clay and he is the potter, and he made men and women different. And I believe the reason why Shaul says this in verses 10 and 11 is because of what he says in verse 39. And it says, the wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in Yah. So my question / comment, I'm not sure how it's going to come out, but is for those sisters, and again, this is speaking specifically about sisters, who are married to a heathen, who does not want to keep Torah and does not want to serve Yah and accept that their wife is of the people, and if that sister does depart from her husband, or a sister who has already made the decision to depart from a husband, who is a heathen and who is not keeping Torah, as far as I can tell, these passages are telling her that she must remain married as long as he is alive. I know there's some that teach that if you leave a husband because he is not pleased to dwell, as Shaul says, that your marriage is annulled and you're free to marry whoever you want. I personally am not of that persuasion because of some of the things in the Greek. But I just wanted to bring this out, particularly for some of the sisters that had asked about how some of this stuff applies to them specifically. I think Sister Bianca, Sister Nisi, and some of the other sisters as well. So I just wanted to put this particular issue on the floor, the issue of whether or not a woman, Israelite woman, who departs from a heathen who does not want to keep Torah, whether or not she must remain unmarried, as Shaul says, because she is bound by the law to her husband, or whether or not she is free to marry again.
So while I have you here, let's look at the last part of 39. It says, only in the Lord. She is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. The wife is bound by the law. What does the law state? As long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. So it goes back to that relationship between the Most High in righteousness. Everything has to be in righteousness. I don't think that too many men, if they had a sentence that was written, command by the Most High, that says you can't leave this crazy woman who's eating pork and she's continually to do certain things, he's bound. In other words, it's like he's in a prison. You have sisters who have awakened to the truth. They are still young. They're in their 20s or something. They go to the husband. They talk to the husband. They're trying to win their husband, and the husband is just unreasonable. Maybe eventually that relationship would have gone south anyway, divorce anyway. But now that she come to know the truth and she's trying to bring this knowledge to her husband, and the husband doesn't want to change, she's giving him plenty of time to do so. She's not rushing into judgment. Is this saying that she will stay the rest of her life in a prison?
I wouldn't term it a prison, but what I believe it's saying is that because there's something unique about the covenant of marriage between a man and a woman that binds a woman to one man until he dies. Of course, we know from scripture, according to Torah, that a man can have more than one wife, but the same is not said for a woman. I believe what this is saying is that woman, if she departs from her husband because he is not pleased to dwell, again using the language of 1 Corinthians 7, that she, according to Shaul, is bound by the law as long as he liveth. And then it says in verse 39 again in 1 Corinthians 7, but if her husband be dead, she is at liberty, so she is free from the law that she was bound by, to be married to whom she will, only in Yah. And I believe why he says only in Yah is because, of course, you don't want this woman to go and marry another man who is not in the faith or not in the truth. And the same thing is said in Romans 7, verses 1 to 3. Shaul makes the same statement about, and he's speaking from Torah, because he says in the passage itself that he's speaking to an audience that knows and understands the law. And he makes the same statement about a woman specifically being bound to a man as long as he lives. So I wouldn't call it a prison. I suppose you can describe it that way. I mean, he does use the word bondage or being bound, so I suppose you can describe it that way. But the way I see it, it's just what Torah says. And again, that has certain implications for women that it doesn't have for men. And I'm just going to read. I just want to read verse 11 of 1 Corinthians 7 again. And it says, "But and if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband." That's the part that deals with the women. But when it comes to men, it says, "And let not the husband put away his wife." But there's no restriction on the man here again, because men and women are treated differently according to Torah when it comes to marriage and sex and so on. And the reason why the man is not required to remain unmarried is because according to Torah, a man can have more than one wife. So if I, as a Hebrew and Israelite man, if I am married to a heathen, and she is not pleased to dwell, she hates Torah, she eats pork all the time, and I decide that I'm going to depart from her, I believe that I am still married to her, but I am allowed to take another wife, because according to Torah, I can have her as a wife and another wife. Whereas with a woman, I believe the reason why it's saying that she must remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband is because, well, a woman is bound to a man until he dies, or of course until she dies.
Okay, let me address a couple things here before we wrap it up, because that's going to open up a whole nother discussion. First of all, if you have a Gentile husband, this woman is bound to this heathen husband who's practicing these things that is contrary to the Most High's will. If the husband is performing things that is contrary to the Most, let's use an extreme one. He's a Satanist.
Right.
He's a Satanist. Should that woman stay with this man and not be married again?
No, there's a difference between, I think, departing from the man and the marriage itself being annulled. So I don't believe that any Hebrew woman or any woman should stay with a man that's a Satanist. And I think this is why Shaul is saying, if he's not right. So I believe that. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So now I understand what you're saying. So let's address that. Okay. So now this woman has now departed from her husband.
Yes.
Now remember what it says. It says in the Lord, the rules for Israelite customs of marriage. Well, you know very well. I'm just kind of like saying it to the side. You know that is completely different from the heathen rules. So you have a house with two sets of different rules. You have a woman who's in a relationship that is her covering has the rules of the heathen that is coming in. He's a Satanist. She has learned that she is in the truth. She's awakened to the truth. Is she still under that covering of the wickedness, or should she be separated and also come into under the cover of righteousness? Because it says, according to the Lord. Is that what it says?
It does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what does the Lord prescribe for Israel? To be in a relationship that is an abomination, or be in a relationship that is right and true?
I believe that Yah wants us to be in relationships that are right and true. My only issue here is that in this very passage where it says only in the Lord or only in Yah, this same text only allows the woman to be remarried if her husband is dead. So I see precisely where you're coming from, and I believe that the desire of Yah for us, both men and women, is to be married to people of our nation who love him and wish to serve him just as we do. But the text says, if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. So it still requires the husband to be dead. And after he is dead, she is at liberty.
Let me pause you for a second. I'm not trying to be rude to interrupt you.
No problem. Feel free.
Okay. The reason why I'm interrupting you, because again, what you're speaking of, you're talking about a man of Israel who are speaking Hebrew rules that is being applied in the house of Israel. So we also seen when Moses says, if a man finds some fault amongst, this is why I said in the beginning, I didn't want to get into divorce and things like that, because it said in the beginning, if a man finds a fault with the wife, he can divorce her and she can be another man's wife. That's the Torah. Same Torah that you mentioned about having more than one wife, which is another topic, is also giving us the wife an allowance to be married to another. And this is why I said we're not in the Garden of Eden, because we will find ourselves reverting back to there was only Adam and Eve, And therefore, someone will say, well, there's no multiple wives because Adam only had one wife. So we will find ourselves having a very interesting conversation that will go all over the place and we'll never be able to have resolution. So what I would say is we'll do a part 2, which will allow us to cover a little bit more material on the subject. It seems like everyone is agreeing to that in the chat room, and it may be necessary so we can have clarity on this particular subject. But let me just say one last thing, brother, and then I'll have to let you go. Let us get together. Let's write down some of these questions because these are great questions you're bringing up, and some of you all are asking.
Just quickly, may I be permitted to speak very quickly before you finish, before I go?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond on the garden comment because I'm not at all trying to go back to the garden. I'm just trying to figure out what shall means, or rather, I'm trying to raise the question of what shall means when he's given these distinctions and rules for men and women. And I'm familiar with the passage that you're referencing about a man divorcing a woman and her being allowed to be married to another man. Deuteronomy 24:1-4 for anyone in the group who wants to look it up. And Yah himself talks about giving Israel, who is his bride, a certificate of divorcement in Jeremiah 3. The only thing I would say to that is that, again, that is a question of a man giving a woman a divorcement. The man who is the possessor or the owner of the woman in the marriage has the right under certain circumstances to do that. My question really is the other way around. What happens with sisters who are making that decision? That's all. And again, I apologize for I apologize for opening this subject at the end. I didn't really want to get this far, but I appreciate that these issues we can go into deeper another time. But I just wanted to be clear about what it is I was trying to get at.
You're fine, brother. It's not a problem. Thank you so much. What you brought up is not an issue at all. It's not a problem. So when I spoke, I'm speaking in general terms, in terms of the Eden and divorce and so forth, because that's the questions that will come up. Now, a lot can be said about our women who were brought over on slave ships here in this country and how many of those Gentiles lay with them and they produce a child that looks just like the mother. One may produce a child that looks like the mother, might be a boy, but the father is a Gentile. Another woman who was laid with by a Gentile may produce a girl that looks like the mother. And then the two of them will run off. The two of them are dark skinned. Both the father might be a Gentile and get married. And generations after that, people are going to look at them and say, well, hey, y'all are Hebrews from the slaves, right? But when you check the tree, the father were on both sides. The young man who was born, his father is a Gentile, and the young lady who was born, her father was a Gentile. But the couple has brought forth a child that looks. We will continue to ask some very hard questions. Did the Most High exempt or just, I'll give everyone something to think about. There's a passage in the Torah about some daughters who did not have an inheritance. The Torah clearly makes it clear inheritance is given to the sons, not to the daughters. Not to the daughters. It's a father to son transmission. But there are times when you don't have any sons. What do you do in that situation? The Most High heard the prayers. He says the girls are right. They need to have something. These are the rules that would govern it. So there's a lot of things that we have to really look at to help us to gain some understanding. And I hope to the Most High we will get that understanding, because there's no straight answer when it comes to a lot of these questions. There's just a searching for the truth and an acknowledgement. Yes, you are right as far as divorce is something that the men can do. But what about the sisters who are in that type of relationship? Because divorce, the whole thing about divorce is really within the context of the Hebrew constitution. But the man who's a heathen is operating under the heathen constitution. So I'll stop there. Okay. Family, is that good enough? Can we stop here? Can we move on to closing out with prayer in the name of our King? And thank you for all the questions. Please don't feel that I'm still waiting for Abiyah ben Israel. All right, we'll spare you this time. And hopefully next time you'll be back. Okay, I don't want to really hit anyone over the head. I just want to be able to find the truth, okay? This is not about penalizing one or the other, but I think sometimes our brothers are not willing to listen to the cries of our sisters who likewise is in a situation. They're young, they want to have a relationship with a man, and they can't have a relationship because the church says so and so, but the Most High has made a lot of provisions accordingly. We just have to seek it out and get the truth. So with that said, let's have prayer, family. Dochimwell, can you give us a short prayer in the name of our King? Let's pray.
Let's pray. Let's pray. We thank you for this moment, O Heavenly Elohim. We thank you for everyone that will listen to words that will draw them closer to thee. We ask you to bless the offering and bless the food, bless those who give, bless those that who don't have anything, provide for them likewise. And most of all, we ask you to continue to be in our presence and guide us through with your word and help us to be obedient to each and everything that you said and done. Because we do ask it, Lord, in the wonderful name I pray. Amen. Let
the words of our mouth, meditation of our heart be acceptable in your sight, O Yah, our strength, Redeemer.